don't understand what's going on in America. And again, if you're feeling like, what the hell is the point of being a billionaire if you're going to? I mean, like, as much as Donald Trump talks about the Justice Department out to get him and witch hunt, here's a real witch hunt. The real witch hunt is Ben Affleck in an afro wig portraying you in a major movie that is constantly advertised during the Final Four. I would take a New York indictment over this 10 times out of 10. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday, if my choices were go to prison for a couple of years over sex with a porn star or having Ben Affleck in a curly wig, like how you let this happen if you're Phil Knight, how you actively signed up for this if you're Phil Knight, I have no idea. Like, I assume it's just that Affleck and Damon ambushed him with it. Like, he had no idea. He signed off, and then he got to actually see what he's being made to look like. Like, Phil Knight, I mean, hey, look, we all know you have spent your life torturing children in your Chinese factories. And that's going to go down as a much more positive note than this stupid fucking movie. Right? I would much rather have them had left Ben Affleck out and made a movie about what goes on in your Chinese factory than have Ben Affleck make you look like this.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Would you say obsession maybe is applicable there? The professor's obsession with Ben Affleck? What do you think, Lubie? Good morning, Lubie. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. How are you? Good morning.
I'm doing well. I watched a lot of that game last night. I thought, well, geez, is there ever going to be a time where San Diego State makes any push in this contest? And they finally started to can a couple of shots. They get some steals, and they got within 5. And you thought, oh wow, maybe this is going to be a case where the Cinderella story actually plays out. And after that just brutal beat that they put on FAU, they come back in similar fashion from very close proximity to what they were facing against FAU, only against what a lot of people thought was all of a sudden a vastly superior UConn team, superior to everybody else. And they did shellac their competition in the tournament. But that whole dream quickly dissipated. I mean, turned into a pumpkin right away as UConn quickly opened back up by double digits. The game itself, not the most entertaining. If that was a regular season game somewhere on a Tuesday night and you happen to be flipping channels and you caught a late night ball game that started after 9 o'clock at night, you would be inclined to turn that off in the first half, would you not? It was anticlimactic for me. And then, of course, the story, we had been greatly and vastly deflated. I mean, talk about taking the air out of the balloon when both FAU and the University of Miami went down in the Final Four. Now, still, I know, I understand. I hear Segreto in my head. Did you not hear Segreto screaming, yeah, but at least they made it that far? And I would not denounce that or diminish that, at all. I mean, think about this. Florida Atlantic University, I don't even know that people who attend Florida Atlantic University know exactly what it is. Florida Atlantic University, I mean, when you were going through the Barron's Guide of colleges to attend, you were aware of it because you lived in Florida.
I'm here, yeah.
Were you not?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I guess if I had it to do over again, and I really enjoyed my time at Syracuse University, when I think back, I mean, many, many great memories of having a good time and just enjoying the fact that you are living free with no responsibilities whatsoever, except to supposedly get a degree. I guess, I probably could have done more preparation for my professional life afterwards because I barely sniffed the lobby of the Newhouse School of Communications. I think I went in there to register for a course once, and I'm not sure that I ever attended a class, which didn't help me when I started out at the Fontana Herald News. And it was my first day there that they started putting this thing together at about 6 in the morning, and it came out in the afternoon. The paper was published later on in the afternoon, which was still viable back then. And, of course, this was the only local newspaper. It was amazing that a town this small and at the time that insignificant would have a daily newspaper of any type. But would you think? It's not like this was the Pelican, comes out once a month, where, the headlines are kind of like the morning briefing in the racing form. where they just announced that Nixon resigned, like in the racing form the day the Florida Derby was contested this past Saturday, right? And you see the two headlines they have in there, Morning Telegraph, I think they call it. And, so that was kind of the MO of the newspaper. The stuff was coming out late. But I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have a single, whatever I took in college, it prepared me. I would think they would deal in more practical applications of what you're really going to have to do on your first job if you don't start out right at the top, which maybe that's the premise, Lubie, that if you go to college, you're going to start out at a higher level than some schmink.
That's the idea, yes.
Yeah.
The hope. It doesn't necessarily happen. That's the hope.
Well, I would imagine this is true of many of our newspaper friends. I don't know that they all started out quite as low on the totem pole as I did. But I mean, the good thing about that spot was it was within close enough proximity to Los Angeles to actually get a chance to cover professional sports in LA while working for, the lowest form of fish wrap that you could ever put together. Although there were dedicated people there. We had 4 people total in the editorial department. And each person was responsible for a section, often having to write the entire section on a daily basis, which, is mostly focused on local issues like the high school football team. But the first day I'm sitting there after going to Syracuse University for 4 years, and I didn't major in journalism because I hadn't attended enough classes to do anything. But I had to take the last semester. I took 6 English courses, Lubie, so I could get a liberal arts degree with a major in English, which was not fun because 3 of them involved reading rather thick and very boring British novels. The worst course ever. Did you ever take the British novel when you were in college?
I did American literature class. I don't know if I did British novels.
Oh, my God.
That's a lot.
I mean, all desire that I ever would have had, except for the fact that the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and many great bands, originated there, Clapton and all of these other great musicians. I would never go to England because if that's what they think is art and literature, that is the most boring swill that you could ever. And it's like 800 pages, all of it, like real thin pages. I remember reading a couple of these books, like a couple of pages, just so I might have some idea who the characters were. And not a senor. But an education perfectly wasted because did you find this in your first practical job that nothing that you learned in college was applicable at all?
It definitely didn't translate directly.
Right? Like you didn't know that the key to having a radio talk show, John, was to be able to distance yourself from the maniacal people that were in management that were constantly out to sabotage you and your show, even though they were telling you how important it was for you to succeed. It was very much a Brian Flores situation, would you say? Is that not the definition and the exact modus operandi of most radio stations where they are trying to gear you towards failure?
They think it's success, but yes, a lot of the time it is not success.
You do something good, they denounce it. You do something awful, they embrace it.
Yes. Yes.
Entertainment, that was never part of the equation there for most of these people. Well, you know what? We're not getting any numbers. Well, guess what? The business is nearly extinct, my friends. Extinct. What do we have to tell you? It's kind of like talking. I mean, we mentioned this on our Defo and 5, but I'm always amazed when I see the. I understand it. Believe me, the Trump supporters. Now, Biden may be a senile old man, and you may not agree with Democratic policies. You may think all of us left-wing liberals are absolutely out of our mind, crazy, smoking weed and hoping that Woodstock comes back. But that wouldn't be so bad, right, compared to what's going on now. I mean, on the other side, where, that is scary when you think about it, this new gun law. And supposedly there are statistics. I guess you could find statistics that, would back any point when you're talking about politics. But some statistical survey had pointed out that in the states where this law has been put into place, which it was yesterday here in Florida, where you don't have to have any training, you don't even know how to set the safety, right? No training and no license or permit necessary to carry concealed weapons anywhere you go. You go in a Walmart, there's a good chance that grandma's packing heat, no?
It's just weird because, like, you can be into guns as much as you want, but you're supposed to be subtle about it. Like the fact that they're making laws that even gun owners are like, that's fucking insane.
Insane.
And almost 80% of Floridians don't want it. Like, he's literally going against what the people want.
Of course.
That is it's just crazy to me. It's like,
And what was the need to do that, though? I mean, to liberalize this gun law so that, more people could protect themselves. I mean, is that really it?
no, more people are going to die. I mean,
That was the stat that there was, a radical difference in the states where this law had been approved in terms of the number of people who were killed by gunfire.
Yes, more guns kills more people. You can love guns all you want. That's an innumerable fact. That's worldwide, America or wherever. More guns kills more people. It's just a fact. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You want to ignore it and be delusional because you are a selfish asshole, then that's fine. But that's the reality of life. More guns kills more people.
I mean, what would be wrong with requiring somebody to have a permit and some training?
Because God forbid,
to get a driver's license, do you not have to have some ability to drive a car, a proven ability? They sit you down in a car, right? Your son or daughter may go through this. I went through it with Jesse. They always fail you the first time, and then the kid is crushed and devastated. And then you get back on the line, and even if you drove, a very, dangerous and possibly, a scary session, the guy, okay, you're good. Right? New York, there was a lot of tension around the driver's test there. When you took the actual road test, because they had you out there on the streets.
Oh, Jesus. In the middle of New York?
Yeah, you were on the Jericho Turnpike there trying to make a left at a 4-way stop sign.
You got a parallel
At
park.
rush hour, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
With a guy screaming at you, the entire time. What the fuck are you doing? And parallel parking into a tiny little space there with a Cadillac. Crushing both cars as you squeezed your way in there. And you know what? In New York, that was fine.
Good for you. You're ready.
Would you consider leaving a note? No. Okay, you pass.
Exactly.
Even though you dented up 3 vehicles on your way into that parking spot. Anyway. An education, unfortunately wasted, and that's too bad because, and that's the reality of school, is it not? Where you get out there into the real world and you have to start to do something. And, all of a sudden it's like, wow, I didn't see any of this in school.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Had to make it happen. And it was good. Now, college basketball was big, when I was out there in California. Naturally, you had UCLA. USC was always the redheaded stepchild in basketball, just the reverse in football. It was kind of interesting.
Yep.
But these were traditional power programs, though, and you had the Pac-8 back then, and it was actually a very interesting league to follow. They carried a lot of Pac-8 basketball on what would have been like the WOR, like Channel 9 or Channel 11 WPIX in New York. You're not familiar with this because you basically had the 3 network stations growing up, right?
Yes.
And what was there, one independent? Yeah, Channel 6. What, wasn't it an independent station when you were a kid?
No,
Channel 6 would have like the Chuck Zink show.
When I was growing up, 4 was NBC.
Big Wilson was on at night. Big Wilson was playing a piano. Remember that?
No.
Introducing horror movies. Yeah, you weren't watching TV back then. This was 80s. When were you born? Louis? 70s?
Early 80s.
Okay, yeah, that's right. You would be 83. Yeah,
82. Your son's the beginning of 83. I'm the end of 82. You had 4 was CBS, 6 was NBC, 7 was Fox. Fox had just become a thing, and then 10 was ABC. And I had that pretty much my entire life.
Yeah, but wasn't Channel 6 was an independent station, was it not? Channel 6?
When I was growing up, we had an NBC, a CBS, an ABC, and then Fox came along.
Okay, maybe they had, caved in and sold out because Ed Berliner, our friend Ed Berliner, used to be the sportscaster when I first moved here on Channel 6. And it was an independent station, so the set looked a little cheesier. I mean, Ed did a fine job, but, they had like oddball programming also, like you might catch the Andy Griffith show there in primetime, a rerun. Anyway, we were, first here and knew nothing of college basketball. I was amazed there was no team. And so, the story, I mean, finishing second or whatever, they used to play the consolation game. Remember that, Lubie?
Yes.
Yeah.
That I know of, yes.
That, and I don't know. Is that worth playing? The consolation game. Would you want to get back out there again after you lost? That's a good question. Mayo was asking yesterday, and I don't know that there's any great answer to this. I would think just the opposite of what most people do, that you would rather lose in a blowout like the Marlins did yesterday than lose like a one-run game.
Well, because you know you lost, and you know like you had no shot, and they were just the better team. When it's close like that, it's like, oh, it's a heartbreaker. But no, to get that far to me and be dispatched is worse.
Well,
Like,
and you want to be in the game. You don't want to be hopelessly trailing the entire time and know
yes,
that virtually everything that you do from a certain point on is going to be relatively meaningless because the way the game is trending, you're going to lose and lose by a
yes,
lot.
yes.
That's a terrible feeling, isn't it?
Worse.
Much more so than being right there fighting tooth and nail to the wire, and a guy gets off a good shot against you, happens to make it. I mean, is that not far more acceptable if you're a competitive athlete or competing in anything that you were that close?
Mhm.
Then you just got bludgeoned like you didn't belong at all. I mean, that's an ugly, nasty feeling to take away from the season.
Yeah.
I would think it would be far more inspiring to lose, even in a situation where many people feel that FAU choked. And you can make a case for that. I mean, depending on your definition of choke. But if choke means, after playing brilliantly the entire time when it seemed like you were in a commanding position, you all of a sudden, your cheeks got a little tight and shots you were making are no longer going in and you're making stupid plays and bad decisions and you're turning the ball over and you're getting out rebounded at the free throw stripe. And committing fouls, I guess. I mean, some people thought the refs jobbed them in that game, and the referees certainly were favorable to San Diego State.
They were just being tight. They were calling it really tight at the end, which they hadn't called it tight the whole fucking game.
Yeah.
The last 3 or 4 minutes, anytime San Diego State went to the basket, it was a foul. And it was like, but you haven't done that all game. Like what are you doing to do that now? It's freaking weird.
Well, and I thought Kenny Smith, I caught this after the game, made a real good point, which was, San Diego State's defense, they were good at bumping people around. And when the refs let them play, they excelled because
Yes.
they were a pretty tough team physically. I mean, it was like they had PJ Tucker at every position, right?
Yeah.
Some guy that's going to, be hitting you with the forearms and pushing you around a little bit and bouncing you around and, handling you a little bit before you get the ball. And even when you do get the ball, and the refs were allowing San Diego State to do a lot of that. And then last night in the second half, I didn't even see half of these fouls, did you? But they're already in the double bonus where every ticky-tack, foul that was called all of a sudden was going to send UConn to the stripe for 2. At that point, the game was over. But Kenny Smith was saying after the game that UConn was a physical enough team to sort of be comfortable being uncomfortable. In other words, they were getting knocked off their spots a little bit and bounced around a little bit, but they were comfortable with that because they were that type of team also in terms of toughness. Is that a fair assessment, or does that seem a little esoteric, a little existential for the basketball crowd out there?
Yesterday, he said, "Look, San Diego State's a physical team. If they're allowed to play physical, it will hinder UConn. If they're not allowed to play physical, it'll help UConn. But I guess UConn was physical enough to match that, and Miami's not. Miami's not. Their biggest guy 6'7".
Yeah,
like you can only be so physical.
And they were hammering San Diego State on the boards in this game, and that was a San Diego State forte. I think that they were relying on offensive rebounding, but
Yeah.
and they were getting handled around the basket defensively. This Sinogo guy who remarkably, I mean, didn't his 3-point shot? We'll run this by Jim Larranaga. I'm wondering if Larranaga, he's going to join us about 8:20. The great Jim Larranaga going to be with us, and we'll get a little postscript on the Final Four in the season and a look ahead. Aren't those guys, most of them, haven't they been there for like 6-7 years? I mean, they have a team that's been together for quite some time, going back like pre-COVID, don't they?
I mean, Wong's a junior.
Okay, so he'll probably be back.
Omir's a transfer. Jordan Miller is a senior. He's gone.
Okay.
Nigel
Pack.
Is Pack a sophomore or junior? Like I don't know.
I would think I would think he has another year just based on that NIL thing that I was reading and talking about yesterday, where he signed a 2-year deal. What is Life Wallet, by the way? This thing that Ruiz has all of his people that he brings in, including the Cavanagh twins on the women's side. What is that these people are endorsing? Have you ever seen anybody? Have you ever seen Nigel Pack? Saying, "Hey, this is Nigel Pack for Life Wallet."
No, I don't know. I think Life Wallet is just a fund that they have NIL money in. I don't know if that's the actual like they you don't need to endorse anything. They can just give you money. I think
They can
that's
just give you money. You don't have to it's name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
just pay you.
Wow, that's interesting the way that got set up.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem.
This system is more liberal than the pros, is it not, in terms of paying people
Yes,
and inducing players? I mean, what kind of mad scramble is it going to be at the end of the season? You're seeing all these stories about so and so has entered the transfer portal. He was the leading scorer for Indiana or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just throwing that out as an example, but it's the type of thing that you're seeing on these crawls whenever you're watching Sports Center or ESPN or any sports channel that has any kind of news flash going there on the bottom line. And it seems like every other story is some kid is going to be in the transfer portal in basketball,
yes.
which we now see like one or two guys, which we know that, right? I mean, it used to be one or two recruits would turn your program around.
Yes.
But now, I mean, it's grabbing somebody else's players, which is going to make this. I mean, is it not going to be the dirtiest game this side of cycling and the Tour de France?
I mean, it's up there. I mean,
What do you think? I mean, how are they going to, administrate this?
they're not. That's the problem. Is the NCAA has no power over it, so they can't administrate it. At some point, the conferences will come together and figure something out because it's the Wild West and they can't have that. But it is what it is. Look, they were too slow to act. At some point, kids were going to get paid.
Yeah.
You either should have been smart and proactive, which they weren't. They were greedy as fuck. So this is what they get. This is their karma. And yeah, us fans are getting jobbed because I don't know if it's ruining the sport. It's changing the sports that we love.
Well, I thought it made it much better this year.
Yeah, that's my thing.
I know it was the one that just happened. And even with the final game being totally anticlimactic for me, and I would imagine any South Floridian, that had even the slightest rooting interest in either FAU or UM or both, did you really care who won this final game? UConn puts itself in some pretty lofty company, though, with their 5th national championship in basketball, which is the same number of titles that Duke and Indiana have. And more championships than Kansas, Villanova, Louisville, and obviously many, many others. So yeah, 5 national titles, quite a distinction. Are those? They had to win one in the early '90s, didn't they?
99.
That was their first championship.
That was Calhoun's thing. Was Calhoun had all in the 90s had these really good teams.
Yeah, great teams.
Daniel Marshall, but they couldn't win. They
Yeah.
would always lose. And then that Richard Hamilton team came together and it was a fucking monster. And it took out that Duke team that was a fucking monster. And then they went on to win like 3 in like 8 years. They won with Emeka Okafor, Ben Gordon, and then they won with someone else, and then Kemba Walker.
Both coaches very classy. I thought this Brian Dutcher was very impressive. He looked like a coach that you would see in, if you were portraying some, salty dog high school coach in a movie, didn't he? Like some Nick Nolte type of coach. But he really, I thought, distinguished himself very well. He came across as, a guy that you could definitely root for any of his teams. There's some people that don't necessarily care for the Hurleys, namely the professor. I don't share that, the same negative feeling. I don't know that you do. What do you think?
I like them. I actually grew up having a soft spot for Duke. I didn't hate Duke. Coach K was like the epitome of a really good coach, and I was.
I rooted against Duke with every fiber of my emotional being.
I just didn't.
Yeah, but that being said, I don't blame like the Hurleys. I mean, would you blame Jerry Faust for sending all of those players from Cincinnati Moeller to Notre Dame?
Maybe.
Is that not fairly typical though, where a major program has some kind of feeder stream, either among some JUCO or high school that is feeding them all of their stars, right? Which got to the point. I mean, with Jerry Faust, they actually gave him the job as head coach. I mean, completely unqualified, and what kind of detriment? Has it been downhill ever since? But the Fighting Irish, the Jerry Faust thing might have buried them.
They won a title with Holtz, and they were competitive with Holtz, but yeah, they've been a force. in a long time.
And it's Brian Kelly who was all in, right? Loved Notre Dame and everything about it. Sat and prayed under touchdown Jesus every day. And then LSU, I guess, like they did with this Kim Mulkey, who was she getting her wardrobe from some Liberace estate sale? What do you think, man? I mean, she looked like Elton John in his early concert days. No,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, obviously a very good coach, but she was another one you were saying. And Baylor, not exactly. I mean, how unscrupulous has Baylor been? Have they cleaned this up? Do
I
you
mean,
believe, Lubie, or once involved in criminal activity, always? What do you
no.
think?
I mean, Scott Drew is seemingly gotten the basketball program under wraps, and the football we've seen under Dave Aranda and Matt Rule before him sort of has gotten vastly cleaned up from what we know. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't hear a lot of rumors like you did under Art Briles about all the crazy shit.
Wow. Art Briles, yeah. Well, what wasn't he doing? I mean, Briles should be getting indicted with Donald Trump, no?
We're just
Today,
allowed.
he probably had a couple of porn stars that he shoveled some cash their way to keep them out of the Inquirer. No, and this is a common occurrence, is it not? I mean, you've done it many times. Have you not, Louie? Have you not paid hush money to certain porn stars to
Yeah,
try
whenever.
and salvage your marriage and your run for the presidency? No.
I mean, no. In regard to you, all the time people come up with this accusation or that accusation.
Yeah.
Instead of just telling them to go fuck themselves, I believe them and I just pay them money, and I don't even tell you. It's just something I do on my own.
That's it.
You're
These chicks
totally
come
right.
out of the woodwork with these false claims, and they're thinking, what choice do I have? It'd just be easier to pay her off to get her to go away than, have this thing go public and blow up big time. All right, so UConn fifth title, 76-59 a final. Wasn't a great ball game to watch. It was kind of painful. I think there was an 11-minute stretch and then later a 9-minute stretch where San Diego State did not have a field goal. And they were just bricking the ball on the inside. Whether that was UConn's presence defensively, I just think they came up very short-armed in that game. Did they not, Mike Lubie on a lot of shots, even point-blank range, where you would think that they would sink at least a reasonable percentage of those. I mean, holy Rudy Gobert, right? Was he shoot 78% from the field? Because he's always right under the basket at 7 feet tall.
Yes.
I mean, make some of these shots, huh? This Dutcher had to be ready to pull his hair out during that. So an elite company now for UConn, as we said, Duke and Indiana, each with 5 titles. We'll talk to Jim Larranaga later on in the program. That should be a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun. And I believe that was a huge building block for the program. If you were a transfer and you saw the way that, and this was one of the things, I mean, it sounds, again, Segreto-esque, but it was enjoyable to watch guys that really I got a serious kick out of playing together, was it not?
Yes,
And we saw that with many teams. I mean, many teams really exhibited that sort of spirit where you did not think you were watching a bunch of selfish, hey, it's all about me kind of stars. I mean, the ball movement in college basketball was great. It was swifter than the NBA. You don't necessarily get the scoring efficiency, but with the NBA's reliance on the 3-point shot now, I don't know that you get as much inside play as you got in the college game. So that was kind of nice. I really enjoyed the tournament all the way through, Libby. I have to say, even at my advanced age, it might have been the best of the tournaments that I've seen, especially when we were writing those 2 great local stories all the way to the Final Four. So that was great. That was our postscript on that. But we will talk to Jim Larranaga, and he's going to join us about 8:20 this morning. And then later on, Scott Spinnelli, who's an excellent, we've had him on the show, but usually in overtime there, our after-hour show for our Believe podcast. And very good, very astute basketball analyst. Was a head coach, Boston College and a couple of other places, right?
He was at Maryland. I don't know if he actually was a head coach at Maryland, but he spent time in Maryland, and he's also been a coach for individual players as well. And then he's been an analyst for years.
What kid wouldn't want to play for Jim Larranaga after watching that whole tournament, though? I mean, of the coaches that were in, even the Final Four, Dusty May, up and comer, signs his deal with FAU. You're figuring what? At best, he sticks there 2 more years. You see him staying for 5.
No,
Mike Lubie.
No, I mean,
If he has any measure of the same success, now you can't expect him to go back to the Final Four, back-to-back years. But if he comes back, makes the tournament again with another team, I don't know how much transition that team's going to go through. Apparently, not much, right? FAU, they're bringing back a very similar
unless you
lineup.
guys go to the league, like I don't know.
Well, although they're talking about poaching, man. I mean, there are pirates out there right now in the weeds
Oh,
with all kinds of deals, and that's what's happening in college sports now.
yes.
It's more chaotic than NFL free agency. It really is, or NBA free agency, where the clock strikes 12 and all of a sudden deals are going on. They don't even wait for that, right? There are already intimations being made towards, I would imagine, several FAU players that have eligibility left, say, hey, come here, man. We got like $1 million for you.
I mean, I'm curious if that happens because there's only so much money FAU has, and these other programs have a lot more money. So,
don't they need to get some, a Botox center involved?
I presume
The Center for Cosmetic Surgery in Boca Raton can't get behind this team.
I presume their funds are going to be raised after this year. A run like this is good for your school, but I don't know if they're going to be able to compete with Duke, UConn, Kentucky, UCLA, Kansas. Like these are programs that basketball is life. Like I don't know if they're gonna. I don't know what you do if you're FAU, but I don't know if they can just poach everyone. Like it doesn't work.
There has to be some FAU graduate that's made billions of dollars selling yachts or something.
In South Florida, there's dudes that didn't go to Miami, didn't go anywhere else, stayed here, went there, or women that went there and did well. Like I'm sure they have some people that have done really well. I just don't know if they give a shit about the basketball program. That's the problem. Like they want their money used for you.
Shouldn't they be the Cougars and representing what Boca Raton is really all about, as opposed to the Owls? No. I'm not sure that wisdom, wins out over cosmetics. But anyway, yeah, you would think that they would be able to raise the capital. They're going to have to because that's the way the game is being played right now. Never mind Sonny Vaccaro. And here you go. Here's a couple of boxes of sneakers, kid. You want to come play for UNLV? That's not the way it goes anymore. And supposedly, I mean, this was a story that was out there. There was talk of schools were trying to poach in on the FAU players that they thought could be effective for them. And that's a whole nother game. I mean, and I don't know, is it happening like that? It doesn't happen like that in any other sport, really, because usually a team has an excellent chance to, at least retain the player that they have, right? There are different methods and parameters by which they can retain a guy, including like signing him up long term, but not happening necessarily on the college basketball scene. We'll see what happens. It's made for a more exciting game, though, has it not? I mean, that was great. You couldn't have asked for much more. I mean, all the way down to the Fairleigh Dickinson thing over Purdue. I think about that. Zach Edey was eventually, awarded the Player of the Year honors, and he didn't touch the ball for 10 minutes in that game.
Yep.
My God. Yeah. What kind of strategy was that? Get a timeout.
I was going to say that's why you have a coach.
What on earth was this man thinking?
I don't know.
Gene Katie, did you say Katie was still alive? He literally would have been rolling over in his grave.
Katie's alive, so he was rolling over in whatever old folks home he's in or whatever the fuck he's doing. He was rolling his eyes as Matt Payne.
What he's got like a bib and he's got drool on it or something?
I don't know if he's as old as you make him, but
I don't know how old he is. I have no idea. I would imagine he's old because he looked old when he was coaching, right? And the thing that made it look particularly weird with Gene Katie, I think, was a real gentleman. I don't know. I didn't ever have any contact with Gene Katie beyond seeing him on TV.
He's 86.
Yeah. Now, does he still use Krylon on his hair? I don't even know if he has hair. I think he just literally paints his head like Ron Popeil style with a can of Krylon.
Now he accepted the bald. What I'm seeing here.
He's bald now?
He accepted the gray and bald from what I'm seeing here.
Oh, yeah? Okay. That slick down here, wasn't it something? It looked like it was,
It was rough.
I don't know if you remember the horror film actor many, many years ago. He was in like every movie with Vincent Price. Peter Lorre.
Yes.
Yeah. You're going to be buried alive. And thank you very much for the information. You're like, what? No, that guy. Remember, he was scary, man. Little guy. But that was Katie had that kind of hair painted on his head all those years. Had to be flipping out, right? Who's the coach at Purdue?
Matt Painter, he's lost 3 straight years of double-digit seeds.
Wow.
That's a dude that, to me, you would be like, all right. Like, it feels like Segredo in Segredo's
This Edie, he looks like Lurch. I mean, he's 6 feet taller than anybody that's on the floor, and he's got his hand up and he's got position on the inside block, and they never throw him the ball. Any lob to this position would have worked. You could have even zipped a couple of passes in there because he was that open and screaming for the ball the whole time. Here. It was like watching a Steve Spurrier offense where everybody's open by 20 yards. Danny Werfel is winning a Heisman Trophy, throwing balls that would normally be coming under the heading of being infield flies. Right? I mean, the receivers are waiting and they invoke the infield fly rule while Danny Werfel is winning the Heisman because guys are so wide open. But that's what it looked like to me. I don't know. So that craziness started. You had Furman, and how lucky was it for San Diego State? Didn't they catch Furman in the second round instead of having to go against Virginia? Right?
Yes.
There were so many. That first round was fantastic, and then that flipped so many different things. But congratulations to the people who had UConn, by the way, in the tournament. That was. Something that some people foresaw. All right. We also mentioned just quickly, how about this, Lubie? 52 Ks, 44 innings of Marlins baseball. Yesterday, nothing against these guys. They're doing a good job under the circumstance because there isn't a whole hell of a lot to talk about, unfortunately, and we're only through Game 5. 4 against the Mets. They won one of them 2-1. This would be, imagine the agony. We would be already feeling pain. We would need, some of those drugs that are advertised on like the CBS Evening News, right? Ozempic, whatever that is. I don't know. Don't you want to blow your brains out when you hear some of these drug theme songs?
Well, to me, it's the side effects. They're always like,
yeah,
the thing. like I was looking into the thing for your hair, this Hims crap, because
no, forget about it.
Well, and it's natural, and it wasn't that much money, and it was like, because I'm not gonna, eventually I'll accept bald, but I'm not gonna do a transplant or any of those weird things that you can tell. It's like, okay, dude.
Well, unless you go Bill Self. I mean, you should contact Bill Self and see who did that. So there are decent jobs. Back in the day when it was very primitive, that whole procedure.
Yeah,
and the guys used to get the plugs up front.
You can just tell it's stupid. You might as well just embrace the bald.
It looked like they, had given Bob Rubin of the Miami Herald a lobotomy. Like they had drilled holes in this guy's head. I mean, and he was a good guy too. He used to come on. We started a show, believe it or not, sports writers on the radio, and the 2 guests every week were Bob Rubin and Dave Hyde.
Oh, good for you.
And it was good. I mean, it was pretty good stuff. They came in for an hour, and it was not any kind of screamathon or anything. Both were very intelligent columnists. I don't know if you remember Bob Rubin in the Herald. He was like second to Eddie Pope there.
Yeah, he was a legend. Yes. Yeah.
But a terrible job of hair plug. Somebody butchered this man. I mean, I asked him, did you, facetiously, I obviously didn't want to embarrass the guy, but my thought always was, did you have this done at a duplex in Hialeah by any chance? Where on the other side they were selling suits. No? Where was the shingle on the wall from?
Exactly. Like what country?
Guam. What part of Guam is the university based in?
So I looked at him stuff because it's natural and it's actually supposedly does work.
Yeah.
And Shirley and I were like, all right, let's do this. And I'm about to order it. And then there's a side effect. So I'm like, okay, what could it be? It's like depression. If you already have depression.
Oh God, no, that's not good for you.
It's like, if you don't have depression, you're going to have depression. Not only said prostate cancer possibility, it said there's a high probability.
Oh, a high probability you'll develop prostate cancer.
It was like, okay.
Why don't you just kill me so I can have hair for a couple of weeks?
I don't want to be bald, but I want to live.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, then.
My son was doing Rogaine for a little while. He was losing his hair when he was in high school, and he was flipping out about it. I mean, he was really depressed.
Yeah.
And since he wears the shaved head look very very well.
Wear it low and you look
Yeah,
good.
yeah, he looks fine.
It looks good.
Right, you can always put a cap on whatever you want to do, but he's not self conscious about it
No.
anymore, as far as I know. But he developed what we called clown lip from taking this Rogaine. His lips swelled up
Oh no.
to the point where I mean, you had to go to the emergency room and they would like look and go, my God, looked like something that was on like a National Geographic thing or something.
Jesus. Oh God.
No, seriously. I mean, I don't mean to cast aspersions on you, but
Right?
I mean, literally, like his lips were like 10 times the size of what they normally looked like. A woman at a Gucci sale in Boca. Yeah, exactly. Like some of these FAU fans that we saw at Myron's Deli. How did we get on this, by the way, Libby? Oh, Gene Katie.
You're talking about Katie, and I was just saying that you were talking about the commercial.
How did Purdue lose? I mean, that was unbelievable, and that opened up. I mean, just the floodgates of bizarre paths to get to the top there. Now UConn, it didn't seem to matter. I don't know. I mean, if they had to meet Alabama or Kansas, so would they have had the same success as other teams?
I don't know.
Who knows?
That's the thing. That's why when we talk about the tournament before the brackets, it's stupid because it's not about is this team great right now. It's who do they have to play, and then how do the matchups work out? Like UConn played really well the entire tournament. They also ended up getting a nice bracket.
They didn't have a tough time. I mean, had an arduous road there, having to go against a 1 and a 2 in their own region,
And a tough 4 in Texas.
and Indiana. Yeah, you had Texas was a 2 seed, and of course Houston was a number 1 seed, and for a good part of the season, what was flirting with the number 1 ranking in the country, and they just annihilated them. That was their best game. It was unfortunate. We'll talk to Jim Larranaga in a little while, and about 8:20 today. And it was unfortunate they did not play their best game. Maybe some of that was due to UConn because I mean it looked very similar what they were doing to San Diego State. Did it not? Although San Diego State's offense was far from as impactful as UM's was. UM had one of the better offensive teams in the country. All right, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Other things happening. We touched on them. Is it even worth it? The Schumacher's going to. I mean, when does he, start thinking about turning in his resignation? Because he just can't take the pain anymore. If you thought Ronnie Rothstein was having a nervous breakdown with the Miami Heat in the early stages, or you bought that Stan Van Gundy couldn't take it anymore because he missed spending time with his daughter at Disney World, how long will this guy be able to hang in there? When it has to be agony. I mean, watching the Marlins game last night, I texted my friend who's on the camera crew, my friend Mike, and he's not really on the camera crew. He kind of oversees everything that's going on there. He's really become a big shot there at Valley Sports Florida and Valley Sports Sun. Does a lot of the games. I guess he does all of the Miami Heat games, and also I'm not sure if he does Panther games. He does all the Marlin games. And may do Panther games as well. And he's like the highest technical guy there in the crew. And he was telling me that it doesn't matter about the pitch clock and the shorter game. These games so far can't end fast enough. Okay, guys, let's wrap it up.
Well, you're having a strikeout an inning. You're having at one point like 2 strikeouts an inning. Like
the home plate umpire, and this John Birdie's had like 3 strikeouts that I've seen. I haven't seen a lot of his at bats. But, I tuned in for a little while last night, and I thought, I can't watch any more of this because it will ruin my appetite for watching the college basketball game, which, still has the possibility of being, one of these thrillers if it was typical of the rest of the tournament. And the guys I started to say before, Paul Severino, and I forget who was doing the color analysis last night, but it wasn't Tommy Hutton. No. But I don't know what you're saying. It's like it was a 4-0 game after Joey Gallo. I thought Joey Gallo had a hole in his bat. Didn't he get run out of New York, Joey Gallo? I mean, and he's playing first base for the Twins, and he hits a 3-run homer off Cueto.
Of course he does.
Who, left the game injured after 30 pitches. So that's not a good sign. All right. This was Johnny Cueto was going to be your great acquisition to shore up a pitching rotation that's supposed to have Sixto Sanchez. And who's this other kid? that you're always talking about?
Well, Edward Cabrera's in it. It's supposed to have Mayer and Sixto, and both have been injury riddled before they even really got started.
Remember the Mets had what? Pulsifer, Isringhausen, and who was the other guy?
And Wilson, Paul
Oh,
Wilson.
Paul Wilson, yeah, from FSU. My God. I've said it many times. I called a few games that Paul Wilson was starting when he was at Florida State, Miami, FSU baseball games.
Yes.
I'm thinking, man, this guy's an animal, man. He's going to be great as a pro. Paul Wilson. Look, he looked the part, right, in college. He looked like a professional pitcher. I mean, this guy was a tall drink of water, and he threw the ball like Tom Seaver. It's unbelievable. Didn't really do anything as a pro, right?
Sucked. Flat out sucked. I don't even remember him doing it.
I guess Isringhausen had a decent career as a closer later on.
Yep, he became a reliever and was really good with the Cardinals.
Yeah. Pulsifer flamed down also.
Yep.
Is that not the story of the Marlins pitching prospects? I mean, forever now.
Yeah.
But with the exception of a couple of guys where, they actually blossomed after they got to the Marlins roster, i.e. Dontrell Willis, which was brief. Josh Beckett, of course, and there have been a few others. But for the most part, right, all of these young pitching prospects that, what we buy into with the pie in the sky stuff that any general manager, in this case, it was Mike Hill when we were doing the shows out there at spring training. Oh, yeah, everybody's going to be great. And we were lapping it up, too, were we not, Lubie? We were, almost like, the people that were following David Koresh there on this Waco series. I don't much, Branch Davidians. We were the Branch Davidians. Yeah, sure, Mike. That sounds good.
We gave the benefit of the doubt. I was always weary, and we were very honest about asking questions in a tactful way, and we gave them benefit of the doubt because they seemed very excited for. They loved your guy Urania. Everyone loved Urania until he was.
I liked Urania until he got to the mound on opening day and gave up 8 runs before he recorded an out.
Total disaster.
Yeah.
Monty Harrison, he just looked like a beast, and he sucked.
Sucked. He had the big gold chain, and he looked like the poor man's Joe Morgan. Only I believe he was a right-hander.
Lewis Brinson, South Florida's own, looked the part.
Magnificent-looking athlete, right?
Dude, and great guy, and we enjoyed talking to him.
Confident too. I mean, he had an air of confidence to him.
He was ass.
Couldn't hit the Mendoza line.
Everyone they were excited about. It just sucks.
How bad are the scouts for this organization? Do they have scouts? That would be the question.
That would make me feel better to find out they just don't. Then it would explain a lot.
Yes, I mean, if they just cut out the scouting staff under Jeffrey Loria and never brought it back under Sherman. But wasn't that Jeter's thing? He was going to scour the universe here and find the best ball players possible.
Well,
line them all up.
That was Denbo's thing, remember? Like, he had been the one that found all the guys with the Yankees. He did it. He, like, the crop that won the most recent World Series.
Yes.
That young crop, not like the 90s.
Gary Denbo, wasn't that the guy's name?
Yes, Gary Denbo was supposedly the guy that picked out all the young talent for the Yankees that helped them win that World Series.
Yes. There you go.
Well,
I don't even think I mean, I'm not necessarily inclined to go to Subway to get a sub sandwich anymore. Although there was a time that I actually liked it. And then, then it's sort of deflating to find out that what you're eating is not what you're eating. Which, I was a big fan of the tuna sub from Subway.
Oh, I used to. Oh, no, yeah, don't tell
Tuna on whole wheat. It was like $5, and it was actually really tasty until you found out that it was gefilte fish that they had on this stuff. Like, how did that factor in?
You're like, no wonder they're doing the prayer.
They got a rabbi blessing this shit as it comes over the counter there. Okay, what else would you like? And most of the meats at Subway, I mean, with all due respect, obviously, it's reasonably priced. But don't they look like? Remember Louis Rich meats? Do you remember those? Came in a package.
Yes,
it looks like a poor man's version of Louis Rich.
That's like the worst version of that.
Yeah. Like, what cow did this, bologna come from? No idea. In general, I mean, this was a case. Mike Mayo was talking about this seminar he's going to be at, where they teach you how to take better photos of food, which it was, a fairly popular thing, right? You're at a restaurant, you take a picture of the dish, you put it up on Facebook. We had a wonderful time. Text it to your friend. Can you believe the veal chop here? It's unbelievable. like Casa D'Angelo or something, or in our case, it would be Cafe Seville. But yeah, I mean, it's a good idea, right? But I would have to say the people that make the ads for some of the worst chain restaurants, fast food restaurants, are the best at making food look good. Are they not?
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. The Subway stuff in the commercials and the people they have doing it looks
Yes, it looks
really
nothing
good.
like that.
And
Yeah.
then you get Subway and you're like, what is wrong with it?
I mean, yeah, this lettuce looks so fresh that you would think that Julio Cesar Chavez, not the boxer, but the advocate for the migrant workers, picked it himself and brought it to the store. He says this is the one that you should use on that sandwich. Yeah, but when you get there, it doesn't look anything like that.
No.
Would you agree?
No, never. And the tuna thing was sickening.
To find out that was like actually like rat meat or whatever it was.
Just a bunch of different garbage, and it was like I didn't
Yeah.
think it was like grade A tuna fine, but I thought it was tuna fish. Tuna fish is cheap. Like, why would you have to cheap
Get a can of tuna and make a thing. I mean, for God's sake.
buy the vats at Costco?
But it was good. That was the funny thing. I mean, so
I
sometimes it shows you how you can be totally delusional about something and thinking, "Wow, this is a great tuna sandwich for $5." And then but are you buying? I mean, it's ridiculous to think that Derek Jeter spends his time thinking about the Italian sub at Subway,
Well, I mean,
and that Steph Curry is also. Come on, Steph.
Simone Biles, her life is staying in shape. I don't think she's eating
Yeah, she weighs 9 pounds.
the meatball parm with pepperoni.
Serena, I could buy that. She had,
Oh,
stuffed a
she's
couple of
older.
those
She's not playing.
down before she went out there for those opening matches at the U.S. Open last year.
Steph Curry is not eating the fucking big trio.
You notice Brady has disappeared from those commercials?
Yeah, well, he's not playing.
Right. But I mean, still Brady. Jeter's not playing.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the Brady. Why the Brady? They never really had Brady. The Brady was always like at the end, and they're like, Tom.
Well, what was weird about that with Brady in that commercial was they must have only paid him for like 6 seconds.
That's it. That's the
because he says his name and it got cut off in the commercial. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, that's on purpose.
Yeah, it was like as flawed an edit as the fight scene in The Godfather.
It's on purpose. It wasn't a flawed edit.
Yeah,
that was the point they're making.
what, that they cut his name off?
They couldn't afford him, or that they had so many. Remember, that was the one that had like 12 people in it. So
Yeah,
but even Tom Brady. And then he
but they didn't get the whole name out.
no.
And I'm thinking, how did that get off somebody's desk at Madison Avenue, right? And they're paying zillions of dollars for this ad campaign. You have to be kidding me.
It was an accident.
All right. I mean, when is this guy going to blow up? This Schumacher, right? New manager of the Marlins, seemed like a really good guy.
Yeah.
They lose in a listless fashion, and I've been trying to get to this for a while here, although I forgot completely about it. I mean, the announcers are making a case yesterday that this guy's relief stint, because he pitched a few innings, came in for Cueto, who left with a bicep injury, although he was getting crushed like a grape at the time, and you might have considered lifting him anyway. Obviously, he had nothing. He'd already given up 2 home runs, including a 3-run jack there to Joey Gallo, who couldn't hit his weight when he was with the Yankees and was just a perennial. I mean, it would strike out, like 60% of the time. It was horrible. So he takes this guy deep early on in the ball game, and then they bring in a guy, and the announcers are saying, "Well, that's a real good job by so and so." I forget who it was. Last name started with an L. Only he gave them the innings they needed. I'm thinking, wait a minute, it was 4-0 when he came in. It was 8-0 when he left in the 6th.
Oh my God, they were trying to make that good.
They're trying to make that good. It's not like he came in and started throwing some goose eggs there. Well, he gave us a shot to get back in this ball game. If we could just string a couple of hits together, maybe a leadoff walk or 2. I mean, now that's a stretch, right? When you're only in the 5th game of the season.
That's bad. We into that material that early in the year.
Some schmink comes into the ball game that you never even heard of. He might have been making his major league debut, and throws like 4 innings of 4-run ball. That equates out to an ERA of 9.00 if you do the math on that. No, and it wasn't like he wasn't getting shelled at different times. I mean, could have been even worse. But that was the thing that they sought to, I mean, you talk about shilling for the team. Oh, yeah, that was a pretty good stint by so-and-so. It's like say nothing at that point. No, like, geez, I mean, but it was a rough go at best, and they're characterizing it as if, well, that was a great job in long relief there. That's exactly what you needed because you got to save that bullpen. We're only in Game 5. How tired could the bullpen be, Lubie? I mean, if they're already in trouble, where they got to save guys, from one night to the next, it's going to be a disaster. No.
Yes, it's going to be a rough year. And that's the problem. Is the Marlins were always bad. Like it wasn't like they were good. The Marlins were always bad.
Yeah.
They're now. It's hard to find an organization that's worse. Like in just sports in general. Like I mean, like even the Kings are now in the playoffs. Like the Jets have hope. Like some of the Knicks.
I think the Jets may have the longest streak now of
making the playoffs.
It's not making the playoffs, right? But not winning a playoff game. Is that it?
Not making a playoff. Not making the playoffs. Period.
Oh yeah,
making the playoffs. Yeah.
Okay.
Kings had it, and now it's a Jets because I think it was the mid to late 2000s. Remember, 2023. So that's been like 14 to 16 years since
that was the last time they made the playoffs. It was with Rex, huh?
Yeah.
All right, AFC title games back to back years.
Well,
Mike Tannenbaum.
Yeah, so whenever that was, so that's like 10 to 12 years ago, I guess.
Yeah. I think the stat was different though. I think it was, no, it couldn't be in the last playoff win then because they did win those games.
Dolphins haven't had a playoff win in like 20.
Maybe that's the one. Yeah, the Dolphins.
The Dolphins haven't had a playoff win in 20 some years. The Dolphins are like like bottom 5 in that. I don't know if they're the longest streak. They're like in the 5 worst in that. The Jets just haven't made the playoffs since I think that second AFC championship run. So what was that? 2009? Was it 2009?
Yeah. Well, what's the line on the Heat and Detroit tonight, you think? I have to see if my New York Post arrives here during the break. But, I mean, if the Heat don't go through tonight, wow. I mean, is that it?
Yeah. Well, the 6 seed's over. I mean,
you don't think they can get there? 2 games, to make up with 4 games to go. They go 4-0 the rest of the way, and the Nets go 2-2. Maybe they hold the tiebreaker. They get the 6th seed.
The Nets have the tiebreaker. That's the thing.
Okay. So they're finished then, pretty much.
Yes, they need to go 4-0, and the Nets to go 1-3, which
all right,
is possible.
Line comes out. Nobody knows about it.
There's no line here.
They go load management.
Heat are favored by 11 and a hook over the Pistons.
Okay. All right. Reasonable. I'd probably consider laying that. All right. We're coming back. Jim Larranaga is going to join us about 8:20, and then we'll have a recap on a tournament with Scott Spinnelli. Real good conversationalist when it comes to basketball. Nobody better than Coach L. And later on this week, we're hoping to catch up with Dusty May as well. But that, Lubie, is no guarantee, right?
That isn't the same thing. We have a really strong relationship with Larranaga. And the guy who's been working with him has worked with him for years, and the people before that knew us, so it just kept going. FAU, we have a relationship with FAU as a whole, but
did we ever ask Larranaga about after the passing of Terry Holland, who was a big influence on his coaching career? He was an assistant under Holland, I think, a couple of places. Did we ever ask him about Terry Holland and his influence on his career?
We may not have.
Yeah. Not sure that we ever brought it up. Yeah, because Holland checked out, maybe, is it a few months ago? 6 months ago, maybe? But was well-liked by everybody, very well-respected. By the way, Jay Wright, he stole the show, did he not?
Yeah,
with Barkley and the boys. I mean, they did a good job with all of that stuff. Even though I'm not a big fan of the 9-man panel to analyze a basketball game. And we know that Barkley, I don't know that Kenny Smith. I think Kenny Smith might follow college basketball
Kenny Smith
more than Barkley does.
Barkley doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, Barkley has no idea which teams he's talking about, does he? He's probably got action on the games, which is to be respected. And Clark Kellogg is a gentleman. We've come across Clark Kellogg many times, and obviously very knowledgeable. And, comes across very well. It was a good panel. And Ernie Johnson is really, great at hosting.
He was great.
Yeah. All right. We'll come back with more. Jim Larranaga coming up in about 20 minutes here on the show. Hialeah Park, great place to go. You talk about a great organization. They know how to do it. And they are doing great things. You have a lot of big races coming up, including the Triple Crown Series, Champion Simulcasting Room. I mean, book a reservation in there, and you will feel like you're at the track. Keeneland Meet opens up this Friday. And a very similar sense you get when you're at Keeneland, which is like a cathedral for thoroughbred racing now, and Hialeah, which at its time when they were running races there was every bit the cathedral that you get that same sense, right, Lubie? And you know me, I'm somewhat of a hopeless romantic. That part of me is about sports,
I was gonna
and
say sports.
when you get in the ultimate scene and you're like, wow, I mean, what could be better than this? That's Hialeah Park. That still has that same look. So you still capture that feeling when you come in there. And when you're punching away in the champion simulcasting room, you almost feel like you're going to see Woody Stevens go out there and saddle one up in the paddock. It's absolutely great. You're loving life. Or Horatio Luro, the distinguished gentleman that he was, sending out these monsters. It was absolutely a great, great feeling. And you can regenerate that again in the champion simulcasting room and all the surrounding outside areas. Plenty easy to make a bet there, even on the Triple Crown days. So check that out. Poker room is always good. Good players in there, and of course, all kinds of stakes. Whether you're a small player, just want to enjoy yourself and shoot the breeze with some people and have some fun, or you're serious about taking down like Johnny Chan. Good place to go. The Hialeah Park Poker Room, very, very well run, professionally run, right from its inception. And of course, the casino has all your favorite Vegas style games. The rewards program is spectacular. Great place for any kind of catering. You're having a party or celebration. If this thing ever really kicks in, Lubie, with Green Light Ventures, boom, man, we're going right to Hialeah Park for a staff party. How about that?
Nice.
We'll make those arrangements with Frank Fiore, or actually, you can do it right through the switchboard there. Just log on to HialeahPark.com for details. Any kind of event, right? Celebration of any type, any gathering, luncheons, this kind of stuff. They are brilliant at catering these sort of affairs. So a lot of special events, and the Friday nights are gas there with the DJs. Saturday, I would imagine, rocking the same way at beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, we're coming back with more. Very excited to talk to Jim Larranaga. That's coming up in this hour. Scott Spinnelli as well. I'm Jeff DeForest. That's Mike Lubie Lubitz. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today. I got a pass on that one because I'm going to keep this doctor's appointment, even though I don't believe there's anything that he can do for me.
Do you feel better?
Oh, yeah. No, 1,000% better. I'm
okay.
Functioning again.
Well, I would just talk to them and just maybe they have an idea of what possibly could have happened.
Yeah, that's my purpose in this thing, because I want to get back out there and try the tennis again, because I just, like I was saying, I don't know about you guys, but I still just enjoy playing ball, don't you? You never get out there, right? I mean, if you had a chance to go, a couple of friends, maybe one of your friends says, hey, Lubie, let's start playing some one-on-one.
I miss it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What game would you like to get back into recreationally, if you could?
I'd like to play some tennis, because I could probably do that with Shirley. I'd like to do something with Shirley.
No, that's a mistake. Don't do that. No, it is. Don't play your wife in singles, and certainly don't get involved in doubles.
Well, not competitively. Yeah, she's not a tennis player, so I would just like to hit the ball around and not actually get into a
Mustang didn't play at all before. I guess she had played at some time, but had no real level of accomplishment in it. And then the first time you take. First of all, I mean, when you're dating, they don't believe that you're playing tennis during those periods of time. Right? I used to have women come to the courts.
I think you're lying.
Yeah, they think you're out with somebody else, right? And you show up at their house with a schwitz, and a sweaty shirt.
Oh, you smell like sex. You're like, man, ain't sex.
Yeah. So she was terrible, and now she's good. And plays competitively with the level of player that she goes against. I'm no monster in this game, that's for sure. I mean, I would say average at best. Capable for a few shots of maybe looking okay, and capable of looking like a clown just as easily, like that clown lip with the Rogaine. But now that she could play, the last thing you want to do is play with your wife. You don't want to play against her.
No, you don't be competitive. That's not going to be good.
And you don't want to be on her side in a doubles match either. Mixed doubles leads to more divorce, I would imagine, than any amount of cheating ever did. Where, how come you kept serving to her? Right? Or whatever. It was like, what? You have a thing for, and all of a sudden you're being accused of liking another guy's wife. And you're thinking, wait a minute, you're the one that wanted to play these people. I hate doubles. And I certainly don't ever play mixed doubles under any circumstances, no matter how much you enjoy the game, no matter how well you get along at the time. Lubie, put her into pickleball.
Did you see Andy Man? Andy Man said that's why he got divorced.
No.
Because she sucked so bad that he got sick of having to chase her ball. So he wanted to play with someone that didn't suck. And she got pissed. because he would play with someone else and not her.
All of a sudden, you're sleeping with a ball machine. Yeah, that's it. All right, we're coming back with more. Jim Larranaga going to join us, and don't forget. I mean, Hialeah Park, just a great destination for all of your entertainment, whether it's degenerate activity and or just want to get out there and dance and maybe meet the girl of your dreams at one of those festivals they have out there by the outside patio bar. Coming back with more in a moment. Now that 8:06.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
This comes from the great Defo Lama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
So I'm hoping our degenerates out there made some money on the tournament, Mike Lubie. What do you think? I think the professor did all right. The early upsets accounting for Mark Lawrence. He sounded pretty happy, didn't he? When we talked to him last week on the show, all of the underdogs that were coming through. And last night, there were many people. The professor actually said, did you do it? Did you take a sniff on the money line there with San Diego State? Because
I didn't trust it. UConn had this thing where they were probably going to steamroll them, and they did. So I'm actually happy I passed. I don't know what he did, but I hope he didn't go too heavy, I guess.
No, he seemed like he, was just saying it's worth a sniff at 3-1, and very early on, it looked like that might be the case, didn't it? Because what was it, like 10? It was 10-6 early. I think it was even a wider margin than that. As San Diego State started out, I mean, they shot like 4 for 5, their first 5 shots, and you're thinking if these guys are going to make shots, they're going to be in it. As tough as their defense was supposed to be, they got themselves in enormous foul trouble in the second half, and that was as inhibiting as anything was in terms of trying to be able to cut into the lead. They did get that run going with a couple of steals and fast breaks, but those were the only shots that they were canning, were those layups on runouts, and everything else. It was brick city, was it not? Watching San Diego State last night. So, and UConn, a deserving champion. There were many people that were talking about UConn being a team to watch and should be highly regarded going into the tournament. We're hoping some of our people cashed on this. Do you know of anybody that had UConn at a big price?
No.
I don't know what their odds were to win the tournament, but as a number 4 seed, they would have to be what? Certainly double digits, maybe in excess of what? 15-1, something like that? Could you have gotten 15-1 on UConn to win the tournament?
We'll have to ask Ken at the end of the week because I would think he knows. But they were a team that people thought had a really good shot, but they weren't the favorite. I mean, Alabama and to me, Alabama, Gonzaga, and you heard a lot about Kansas coming into the tournament. You didn't hear it, and UConn. UConn was one of those teams. So it probably wasn't insane, but yeah, it's 64.
Duke was another team that was being well regarded. Yeah.
Yes.
So, but UConn had some steam. I mean, at least in terms of generating, a certain amount of wise guy conversation that, they could be a team to watch for. They certainly were, and it was blowout city. But, Jim Larranaga was saying, in interviews that he had, they always had the coach on after they got off the bus there, and the fans came out to greet him, which was nice. And, Jim was relishing all of this. What was he not? There was certainly no hanging his head. Dusty May seemed a little bit down about the whole thing, although he expressed optimism as to what a great stepping stone this would be, and for FAU, highly more improbable than anything that the University of Miami was able to achieve. They were a game away from being in the Final Four last year, and that's pretty incredible. I mean, when you go back and trace the history of the resurrection of the basketball program, I keep going back to this, Libby. I wish you had seen this. I mean, it literally was one of the strangest arrangements. I remember when I first came here, I went to a boxing match, a world title fight that was taking place at the Miami Highlight Fronton.
Oh, jeez.
It involved a bantamweight champion that I was familiar with named Jeff Chandler out of Philadelphia. And he was defending his title at the Highlight Fronton. So think about the setup here. I mean, the court, is in basically a stage where they were having this world title fight. So there's nobody, on the sides of the ring, and there's nobody behind the ring, and the ring is just sitting there in the middle of a highlight court. And everybody's in like a theater going back. And the Canes basketball program played their home games at the Knight Center, which is still in existence, right? Is the Knight Center still going strong in Miami?
The James L.
James L. Knight Center? Yeah.
Basketball games at the James L.
Knight Center. Yeah, there were no arenas here. We didn't have the Miami Arena.
Oh, God.
Which was a disaster when they moved. Yeah, they had no on-campus facility. They couldn't even find like a high school gym to play at. So they're at the James L. Knight Center, and all of the seats are on a stage, and the basketball game's going on like you were watching a game of highlight. I was even cursing out Joey during one of the UM basketball games there. You dropped that on purpose, Joey. I so apologize to Joey Kornblit for anything that No, I mean, it was sacrilegious to say anything negative about Joey. And the Blue Hairs loved him. Lubie, the Blue Hairs that were sitting down front rows at Dania Highland when he moved from Miami to Dania. And Joey, I mean, as great as he was at Miami, he overshadowed virtually all of the talent at Dania Highland. Because Miami, had a bunch of guys that were, top-notch guys that came over from the Basque region of Spain. And here's this Jewish kid, right, Joey Kornblit, and he's throwing these kill shots. And people are saying literally that it was like Air Coryell, man. He revolutionized the game. It's great. Then he goes to Dania, and it wasn't uncommon to have what was known as Alberto VO5 night, where they gave you a tube of hair coloring so you could get that weird red color that older women sometimes, even my mom had that weird red color for a while in her hair. Are you familiar with that? It's sort of like bordering on orange. And all of those women were in the front row going, "Come on, Joey, you can do it." But they played the basketball under these kind of conditions. With what was it, Bill Foster? I believe Bill Foster was the coach. And they had a couple of guys that could play a little bit. They weren't horrendous, but I don't think they had no conference affiliation, obviously. And we're playing like a real ragtag schedule. And it looked like it was doomed to failure, as many sports. I mean, anything that wasn't mainstream here in South Florida essentially wasn't going to work, right? If you were the Hooters indoor team, you could have women running around the stands bare-chested, serving free drinks, and you still couldn't get a crowd for that stuff. Minor league hockey, remember the Miami Matadors? Did you ever remember this franchise being in existence? They stiffed us for a bunch of money, the Miami Matadors. Big advertisers on the radio, but unfortunately, if you don't get paid, it really doesn't amount to much, right? What else? I mean, they tried USBL here, even with Roy Jones Jr. and was Tim Hardaway behind that? That didn't work. Most stuff that was off the radar of mainstream that wasn't either pro or college football was not working here, and that's why it's always been suspect about some of these other sports. Fortunately, basketball has succeeded. Would you say that hockey is a success in South Florida?
Oh no, it's a massive failure.
You believe it's a failure?
Yeah, I mean, no one pays attention at all to it. No one
Okay.
I know pays attention to hockey at all, and they're sports fans.
Right. And baseball, I mean, last night, I understand it's a Monday night against the Twins, but also, I mean, you would think that tickets were at such a premium for their opening series against the Mets, which they weren't, that, many people that wanted to go to an early season game, let's go to a ball game. We'll take the kids. Although last night they had the bark at the park night. I cannot see my dog Skippy behaving like any of these dogs under those circumstances.
I feel bad for the dogs. Like, I know, just
You think the dogs want to see these games even with the pitch clock?
I always feel bad when people bring dogs out in public because it's like, why does a dog want to just sit next to you? Like, that's you. That's not.
Yeah, no, that was never my thing. I understand that it works for some people. It doesn't work for me.
It's just not fair to the dog. First of all, yes, I don't want to be dealing with it. 100%,
Yeah.
But on the dog's perspective, like, why would the dog, however small your house is, it's bigger than sitting next to you on a chair. Like, that's fucking weird.
Well, and, these dogs looked like, I mean, they were more into the game than the people. They really did. I would worry about foul balls being rattled off into that section wherever they keep these people. Where are they? Way in the outfield somewhere? Not sure.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm going to tune in today and see, unfortunately, Jazz Chisholm fall all over himself trying to play center field.
I do love that you're having a guy learn one of the toughest positions in the sport, maybe in sports, because center fielder used to be like the best fielder was at center field.
Paul Blair, my man.
One of the
Unbelievable.
best, like Jim Edmonds and King
Willie
Richardson
Mays.
and Willie Mays, like center field, and then I guess short, but like center field was a legit fielder. One of the toughest positions in the sport, if not in sports in general. And you're having him learn on the job in the majors.
Not easy, yeah.
How did that ever, like, when they were pitching that to us?
But it's been done before. I mean, this kind of experiment of transitioning.
Never played? I'm not saying they haven't played since college.
Juan Samuel, remember that guy? Juan Samuel went from second base to center field. I don't know that he was a Gold Glover in center field, but he, I think, made a reasonable transition for the Phillies many years ago.
Because Chisholm has said he's never played center. Not that he played in the minors, not that he played in college. He has never in his life, Little League, never played center. Never. Like, I feel like Juan Samuel had a little bit of center in his pedigree. Like, to me, to never played center, and now you're
imagine sitting down at the team meetings. Sorry, Luke, but team meetings. Before the season starts, and they got Kim Eng in there, and all of the scouts and the baseball people and the personnel guys, and they're saying, why don't we get a bunch of guys and play all of them in a new position? In fact, we'll even get some guy that was previously a catcher. We'll put him in the bullpen and make him pitch. Let's just flip positions with everybody and see what happens. That's great. All right. Should we take a break and then bring on Jim Larranaga? What do you think, Louis? Or just, hang in there because Jim's usually right on time here. Jim Larranaga is going to join us, and we're looking very much forward to that conversation. It is always great, and it's always inspiring to hear him and just listen to the way he talks about basketball. I don't know. I got caught up a little bit in the sentiment of the story last night of the whole Hurley family there and his father, legendary coach. And then, Bobby Hurley's there. He's coaching Arizona State and in full support of Danny Hurley, who was a high school coach. They took a shot on him. He worked his way into a position there at UConn, which was not knocking it out of the park anymore. They had their share of negative occurrences, and sure enough, takes them and shapes them into a team that just was brilliant throughout this tournament. And we welcome to the show, and this was great. And we can't thank this man enough. A for joining us once again with a little postscript on what happened in the Final Four and the run to that position. But we want to thank him for a great season because what we really got to know the guys on the team there and started to really identify with them, as our fans did with Coach L. And I think it's a mandatory deal that Coach L won't do the interview unless we play the song.
Pretty much, yes. He has that in his rider, which he should. He's earned it.
Yeah, and this it was from a caller many years ago, and at the time all of our other teams were losing except for the University of Miami,
which isn't that far from.
Just to give you a little bit of the background on this thing. So fire it up, Lubie, and we'll bring on Coach Larranaga.
Jim Larranaga, we love you, Jim Larranaga, Coach Larranaga. Won't you do us a favor? Bring us a winner. One stinking winner, deliver a winner in this town filled with losers.
Buenos dias. The cafecito is piping hot. Why not enjoy it with Defo and Lubie? It's now time for the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back into the program here, and it's a pleasure as always to welcome a man we consider to be a real treasure as a guest, and of course, anytime we're talking basketball with Jim Larranaga, we're feeling great about it, and we welcome Coach L to the program. Coach, how are you? Congratulations on a great season. I know a lot of people don't give credit to teams that don't win at all. Only one team can do that, but for me, it was a magic carpet ride, and for a lot of people in town, and I know you felt very good about the fact that your team got to that platform in the Final Four. How are you? And thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks, Defo. The first thing that runs through my mind is that the last 2 years, there's only been one team to reach the Elite Eight back-to-back years, and that's the University of Miami men's basketball team.
Yep.
Last year, we reached the Elite Eight. This year, we took even another step further, getting to the Final Four. We lost, but we lost to the eventual champion, the University of Connecticut, who was very, very good. We had an off night. They had a great night, and they were able to advance and eventually defeat San Diego State.
Real tough shooting night for your club. It was sort of reminiscent of the first 30 minutes, I guess, against Texas in a previous ball game that got you and was your springboard into the Final Four. You did manage to turn it around, or your players did, in that game as they started hitting shots. Were you sensing that was going to turn around again as you were sort of clawing your way back in there, and got to within 8? And then, unfortunately, the shots continued not to fall with any frequency.
Well, here's what I think, that we were one of the most efficient offensive teams in the country all season long, top 10. And that when you're an offensive efficiency team, that means you're getting good shots, you're moving the basketball. And I think Connecticut deserves a lot of credit. They put a lot of pressure on us, and we got a little anxious. Every time I think we missed a shot, we started to feel it. And at the other end of the court, they opened up the game making 3 straight threes.
Yeah.
With their big guy, Sunogo, making
2 from Sunogo. Did he not look like Manute Bol with the form on that shot? I mean, weren't you happy when he launched those? They look like certain bricks.
Yes, no.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is they had a great game, and we would have needed to have a great game to beat them.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We missed shots, and then kind of there was a snowball effect. One guy missed, and then pretty soon another guy, and we struggled. And we try to, do what we did against Texas and make a good run. We did that against Drake, where we were behind most of the game, and went on a 16-1 run to end the game. And we just never could get anything going. The 59 points was the lowest point total of the season.
Jeez.
Not of the tournament, but of the season. We were averaging over 80, but it wasn't to be.
So yeah, and you just brought it up, Coach, but that's something you were great at all tournament. And we've been privileged and lucky to talk to you, but every game it seemed like whatever was going wrong, you were able to make an adjustment in game that had a major effect and led to a victory. What is it like in the game to watch your guys struggling and not be able to pull the rabbit out of the hat, so to say?
Well, I felt like our players were trying. The effort was great.
Yeah.
We were. In fact, we held Connecticut to 72 points. That's their lowest total of the tournament. If on a normal game we hold them to 72 and we score 80, we win.
Yep.
Right.
It just wasn't a normal. Now, some of it has to do with being in the Final Four. Getting there is great, but once you get there, you really want to win. And I think we just put a little bit too much pressure on ourselves. We didn't play our normal game.
It was great, too. I mean, you couldn't help but become fans of some of your players. And, it's funny because people say, oh, well, geez, nobody pays attention here to college basketball until the tournament starts. And even then, they don't know what's going on. But we started picking up this ride a little earlier. And, the guys that you had that were your core were a lot of fun to watch. And it seemed like a different guy would come through in different stretches of ball games, whether it was Nigel Pack, that game by Jordan Miller when he had the perfecto from the floor against Texas, sensational. And who didn't love the West Unseld attack at the boards of O'Meara? That was phenomenal. And Isaiah Wong, when he got it going, as we said, he looked like Kawhi Leonard. Speaking of San Diego State, in that one stretch where he was making all of those mid-range jumpers and turnarounds and fallaways, and really got you punched back into that ball game against Texas. How you really love these guys? I mean, that was something that came across, and it was a great thing, I think, for the city to have a chance to see these guys that enjoyed playing together so much, and really, obviously showed a lot of character and a lot of class and dignity along the way.
Well, here's what I would say: the greatest symbolic thing about getting to the Final Four was how the Coral Gables and the city of Miami rallied around the team. We had 10,000 locals at the game cheering us on.
Wow.
10,000.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So
yeah,
we sold more tickets than any other team. We had tremendous support. We all stayed at the same hotel and had great gatherings. I must have taken 1,000 selfies and pictures, with our fans.
Yeah.
And it was just great to see that, the excitement surrounding our basketball program. If you go back to 1971, there was no interest in the basketball program, so they folded their tent. There was no University of Miami basketball team from 71 to 85. And when they brought it back, it was a slow building process. Then when my staff and I arrived in 2011, we started building towards this. And to get to the Final Four was a tremendous accomplishment for these players and my coaching staff.
Coach, we know you've not only embraced UM and the basketball, but we talked with you about Mario Cristobal coming and what that meant for the program, the school. You've embraced the Miami area. You've embraced South Florida. What is it to say that not only UM, but both UM and we know you have a relationship with Dusty May, both UM and FAU made the Final Four for this area where basketball is just still in its infancy, for both programs to make the Final Four? And it feels like both programs are here to stay. Like, what does that do for South Florida as a whole?
No, I think it's wonderful for South Florida. And Dusty May and his staff and team did a fantastic job. My staff and I, we played FAU a year ago and beat them at FAU by 2 points. And everybody said, oh, man, Miami's not going to be that good if they can only beat FAU by 2. I told my staff, I said, hey, that's a very good team. And they just, Dusty May and staff, filled in some pieces and got a transfer, and all of a sudden they're not only winning their league, get to the NCAA tournament, but advancing to the Final Four. So college basketball has changed dramatically with the transfer portal. You get the right 1 or 2 transfers, and every team in the Final Four had them, and no team in the Final Four had a McDonald's All-American.
That's funny.
Wow.
So you don't need a McDonald's All-American, a great freshman to lead you to victory. Now you can do it with upperclassmen and transfers.
How much time, do you have your staff, looking at either incoming freshmen that would normally be considered, the emphasis of any kind of recruiting, and eyeballing the transfer portal?
Well, we do both throughout the year. In July, we're on the road recruiting, looking at seniors in high school. And, kind of looking also at sophomores and juniors to be, so that we can, start being proactive and looking for who we might want to recruit the following year. And then in August, September, October, high school recruiting really picks up and a lot of kids sign. By November, the signing date, almost every good high school player has made his decision and is committed to a school. May not be 100%, but it's pretty darn close. That means in April, there are not enough good high school players to recruit. So you go after kids in the transfer portal. And right now, there's over 1,200 players in the transfer portal.
Wow.
So then those are older guys
right.
who might be 20, 21, 22. we played against a team this year that had a 25-year-old starter.
Yes.
So these older guys have more experience, and I think that's one of the reasons, the 4 teams that made it to the Final Four did not really start a freshman, did not have a McDonald's All-American.
I think Drake had a couple of guys in their starting lineup that were in school longer than John Blutarski. And so, they were very mature. And, it's a different ball game going against an 18, 19-year-old kid. All right. What remains intact for you, Coach? What do you anticipate having to work with from this obviously excellent and talented core that you had? And what do you think you're going to have to look for to try and be in a similar spot next year?
Well, the first thing is you don't really know. We don't really know at this point in time because there's always 3 possibilities. Number one, obviously the best is they return to Miami. But number 2, they can put their name into the draft. And number 3, they can put their name into the portal. And those 3 options are available, and we'll see what happens in the next 2 weeks. We'll be actively looking in the portal to see what we need to complete our roster.
It was your second time going to the Final Four. Of course, a Cinderella ride there with George Mason going back to 2006. How would you compare the 2 experiences, Coach? First time, has to be, obviously something that you would never forget, and especially with a team that didn't seem like it was a likely candidate to be in that spot. And then, UM probably obviously a little more well known than and in the Elite 8 last year, so not as big of a surprise as George Mason was. But what was it like going back 17 years later for you?
Well, 17 years ago, the experts were saying George Mason would not even be invited to the tournament. And then when we got in, the experts said we didn't belong.
Right.
We came from a very weak league, and we didn't beat anybody good. I try to tell everybody, no, this team is very, very good. And then the experts predicted we'd get crushed by Michigan State in the first round, and we didn't. We won. Then we played the defending national champion, North Carolina. So everybody said, well, that for sure. And it didn't. We won. We got to the Sweet 16 and beat Wichita State. And then we had to play the number 1 team in the country, the number 1 seed in the tournament, the University of Connecticut. So everybody said, well, then, for sure we will lose. And we didn't. We won in overtime. And I kind of was hoping we were reliving that and this year. But the difference this year, our Miami team was ranked. Not immediately, but for, I think, at least 8 weeks or more, maybe 10 weeks during the season. And we won the ACC regular season, and we're seeded 5th. So the ACC had only 5 teams in, but they're a good 5 teams. And last year we got to the Elite 8, but so did Duke and Carolina. 3 teams in the Elite 8 and 2 in the Final Four. So we felt as a program we were improving, making progress, and it was just great this year. We got our chance to get back to the big dance and not only get there, but make a great come from behind victory against Drake, another great win over Indiana, and then beating the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the Midwest Regional Final, Houston and Texas, to get to Houston and play in the Final Four.
Oh, it's fantastic. And as you said, support around the country. And I think some of that inspired by the dance moves, which, as you said, while you were taking those 1,000 pictures and selfies, you were exhibiting, again, the same kind of rhythms that you would see in some of the nightclubs here in South Florida. So that was great. You seem to be in great spirits, Coach. And, we want to congratulate you again on just an outstanding season. It was a lot of fun, and it was great taking the ride with you. It was chaos, too, the tournament. I don't know, because you were so involved with your team, I don't know how much, a reaction, you had a chance to have to some of the other things that were happening. Obviously, you had to be following it, but I thought this was like the most wildly entertaining NCAA tournament I've seen in the 60-some-odd years I've been watching college basketball.
But yeah, the other thing that was a really great sign for our basketball program and the University of Miami is at the Watsco Center. We weren't playing a home game, but they packed the Watsco Center and had a watch party.
Oh, nice.
And so they showed it on the jumbotron in the Watsco Center, and a lot of students and fans who couldn't make it to Houston, watched it there. So, we're real proud of the team, the season we had, and it's onward and upward now.
A lot of great stories, and as you said, this is something that people will take with them for a lifetime in terms of the memories. Coach, thank you so much, and for always being so generous with your time with us. So we really appreciate it, and it's just great to have you on the program, and tremendous ride and continued success to the University of Miami. It really converted a lot of people into big fans, and brought these players to light, as personalities as well, and. We can't thank you enough for being with us on the program all the time.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Thanks a lot. Jim Larranaga, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Good perspective on everything, no?
Yeah, he was great. That's what I expected from him.
Lubie, I don't look tilted to you every time I look in this shot here.
You can fix it if
I
you
look
want.
like I'm on a slant or something.
You can fix it if you want. You look fine to me.
It's the cleaning ladies again. Who probably ran away with all of the bracket money. But every time they come in here, something else is a little bit out of kilter, right?
Yeah, my clean people don't touch my desk.
That guy, David Muir, sort of is on a slant, isn't he? When he does the ABC Evening News.
I don't watch ABC Evening News.
No, but I'm not. I'm a CBS guy on the Evening News, but every time you see the clip of Muir, he's one of those guys with his head on a tilt.
Yes.
Which I don't know that plays well on TV, but I don't know which way to turn this camera. I'll have to figure it out after the show.
Okay.
All right, that was Jim Larranaga, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think? Good spirits. Obviously, somewhat disappointed that the team didn't, go out there and do their thing against UConn.
He said it. Look, he didn't make excuses. They had a bad game. And it wasn't. And I don't say it was lack of effort. I think they were trying, and I don't think they were shell shocked, or they just played a better team and didn't have any answers. They just didn't. And I'm not saying that would be every time they played UConn, but that was definitely the case Saturday.
By the time they got to the Final Four, I know it's easy to post-race handicap on this thing, but did you not think that UConn, they were, I think, minus 135 to win it all? And you were getting 6-1 on Miami, 7-1 on FAU, and 3 or 4-1 on San Diego State. Prohibitive favorites. I don't know. It might have even been 5-1 on San Diego State, because you would have thought that they had the least chance of anybody. No, going into the Final Four, I thought FAU would beat San Diego State, which they nearly did, but San Diego State prevailed there, and I figured, most people thought that UConn was going to beat the University of Miami. No.
Yes, yes, they were the heavy favorite, and. It was sort of I don't know if it was understood, because UM had made some interesting comebacks, but it felt like it was UConn's game to lose.
And it pretty much was, and they didn't. They were wildly efficient by comparison to the University of Miami in that ball game. And when all of a sudden there's a lid on the basket, look at this. San Diego State, there were two spans, one of like 11 minutes, one of 9, so 20 minutes out of the 40. Where they didn't have a field goal from the field, a basket from the field, not one field goal.
That's bad.
You can't go half a game without making a basket and win against a good team, can you?
No.
and Miami, it seemed to have similar droughts. I don't know if they were as extensive as that, but wow, that was a rough go. But in general, on that debate, and there were a couple of debates that came out of these basketball tournaments, and I know. We got the Masters and baseball and all of this other stuff happening, and the NBA is winding down a regular season. And don't sleep on the Lakers, Lubie. Don't sleep on the Lakers.
Okay, I won't.
You hate the Lakers so much. What is it? You still resent that LeBron left town? Is that the reason for your negative? Or you just don't like the pompous, LA Laker, fans that no matter what, they're almost. They could be like Trump supporters, no, where no matter what happens with the Lakers, they just go, oh, yeah, well, we're the best team.
Laker fans that are delusional are annoying, but that's every fan base.
Yeah.
I actually don't. I mean, I rooted against them when we played them in the finals. I don't really hate them. They've been sort of I just find it funny that people always force them into the conversation. Now I get it; they're playing better now. And they are in the 7th seed. I think they're only like a game out of the 5th seed. So that, I mean, there's something to be said for that. I don't trust LeBron and AD's health. So that's why, to me, eventually one of them's getting hurt, and when one of them gets hurt, they're useless.
Yeah. They were okay without LeBron, believe it or not.
Yeah, but it's a regular season. Like, again, Memphis was good without John Morant in the regular season. And he got hurt in the playoffs, and they were still pretty impressive. They still weren't the same team.
Yeah.
Like, your stars go down in the playoffs, you're not winning.
Yeah, but it just it's coming down to the end there, and the same thing in hockey.
Yes,
you have this thing. I mean, the standards here are low, are they not? It's kind of like Knicks fans are perfectly happy that they're going to slide into the 5th spot in the seedings in the Eastern Conference and probably get eliminated in the first round. A strong possibility against the Cavs.
Yes, they're not beating the Cavs.
Look, slightly better, and they get Randall back maybe for the playoffs, I guess. So, but he's out 2 weeks, and Brunson's playing great, but their standard is low. It's kind of like Dolphin fans at this point. We just want to win a playoff game.
Yes, 100%.
Miami Dolphins, just please one playoff game.
Can we
have that?
Yes, that's really what I'm looking for as a Dolphin fan. They haven't won a playoff game in over 20 years.
Expectations are low, man. Drive for 75, we would already be Meshuggah, would we not? With the Marlins.
Oh God, yeah.
How do you strike out that much?
You're bad.
They were supposed to get a better hitting team because they don't have enough money to afford anybody that can hit with power. That was available to them. I mean, they would either have to trade for a guy with a big fat contract, or sign a free agent for a lot of money. Neither of those things is happening. They're going to try and change it up and have guys that can make contact. And what do? They get this Rod Carew guy, Arise, who's lived up to his billing so far. I mean, I know it's only 5 games. The guy's hitting .524. Unbelievable. Over 500 so far through 5 games. I mean, and won the batting title last year in the American League. So he's no slouch, and appears to have that kind of, sweet, short stroke that you're looking for. And it's going to get you on base a lot. But everybody else sucks. I mean, they can't make contact. You can't. 52 strikeouts in 44 innings, Lubie.
That's my thing. Like, if they're not hitting homers, at least they're supposed to be getting on base or putting balls in play.
That's like 1.25 strikeouts per inning, no?
So you're not hitting for power and you're not hitting for contact either? Like, what the fuck?
Right. I mean, I'm caught looking a lot. Although this guy had the Maddox plate extenders. This John Birdie, I've seen him strike out 3 times, and all 3 times it was on a 3-2 pitch that was well outside.
Oh, really?
And they rung him up. Yeah. Like, they don't care about the Marlins. They just want him off the field. It's unbelievable. So we're going to wait for when will Schumacher snap? At what point in time?
The fact that he hasn't done it yet, I give him credit.
All right. It's coming soon, though. He looked very distraught last night.
I think it's in the wake.
He looked like Mattingly at the end of last season, where he just, was hoping that he could find a cyanide cap next to that Gatorade bottle that's on the press conference desk. All right, we're coming back with more. We'll get some more analysis on the tournament here from Scott Spinnelli, and I guess trying to have Dusty May on later this week, and then that'll be that, man. We'll start turning our attention to next year when Ian Eagle. I didn't see the Nats farewell sign off. Did you?
I just heard it. He said something about be good to each other, love one another.
Okay, all right, good.
And I've learned a lot, and I've had a great time. And then he said not to steal my own line or adjust my own line, but he said, thank you for being my friends. And then that was the end.
Oh, Jesus. All right. How about, UConn 76, San Diego State 59. I'm Jim Nance. Thanks for tuning in.
No, he did a thing.
Got a whole big number there?
He did a thing.
Nice song and a dance. What about at the Masters? When is Ian going to be going? Here's couples from 165.
I would love for him to take his Masters job.
Freddie's got a 9-iron.
Doesn't even do golf.
We should be calling golf. No, we should be on the ESPN2 version of that, right? Where they're just trashing a guy. I mean, can you believe this guy shanked that thing? Talk about. And that'd be the way to go. Although they always, it's amazing the shots these guys hit. The trouble shots are incredible. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Scott Spinnelli going to join us. Now that.
The time.
8:45.
Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
You're a lovely and talented one. I mean, the first woman and for a long time, the only woman, there are now two, in the NFL Hall of Fame. I mean, in there with all of the greats, Johnny U, Joe Willie, all of our favorites, Joe Montana, the great Dan Marino, and Leslie Visser, part of the scene in the NFL Hall of Fame. But what level of distinction is it to be the first guest on our new program? Because I would imagine, Leslie Visser, and by the way, how are you? Thanks so much for joining us here on the program.
Is this an after-school special?
This isn't practice. We're doing it. We're all over the world.
Congratulations to you guys. I want to know. I'm so proud to be your first guest. And, of course, I have a number of things to go over that maybe this time it could be different. You know, it's not the gambler's creed.
You think we're going to race the past all at once here in one program? It's impossible.
The modern-day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Great to be with you on this fine Tuesday. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie. It's the Defo Show here on South Florida Live. And this guy always impressed us every time we've spoken with him. And he's a lot of fun to have on the program as well because he really knows his stuff. Former coach at Boston College, Maryland, Texas A&M, and now with an outstanding podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, where we also share a program as well that we do after hours. And we welcome to the show Scott Spinnelli. And Scott, good to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us here on the show.
Always a pleasure. Love being on with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, and we've spoken before about this. I mean, people were bleeding from every pore first round with bracketology. I mean, it got ugly. I guess there were some people that might have anticipated the final four teams being who they eventually turned out to be with San Diego State. That was a tough one to see. Florida Atlantic University. We didn't even know there was a school in Boca Raton until late in the season when they had won like 21 straight games. And we were saying they couldn't get 300 fans on Gucci bag night there in Boca Raton for a long time. And then all of a sudden they caught fire and were a great Cinderella story. The University of Miami, we just had Jim Larranaga on the show, and I could sense that he was a little disappointed in the performance against UConn, and then UConn, which a team that was getting some steam before the tournament, but I don't know, did you envision them winning it all when the first thing started? And was this the most chaotic of tournaments that you've seen? Maybe in our lifetime. It really was kind of wild right from the start.
It really was. I mean, first of all, with the UConn, question, look, we had talked about UConn going into the Big East tournament, and we thought that they were, really kind of playing their best basketball. Then they got upset by Marquette, and they were exposed a little bit in terms of turning the ball over, live ball turnovers, which, again, I thought was going to be something that was going to catch up to them in the tournament. But to your point, their talent level, they had everything, they probably needed in terms of personnel. And it took them a while to figure it out. I mean, 8 games they lost during the season, and the old adage that great, players are made in the off season and great teams are made in season. really, applies to the University of Connecticut in terms of overcoming adversity, finding, the roles and the combinations that, really help that team be the best version of themselves. And again, so I think that was something that came up. But in terms of the tournament, look, this was a hectic, tournament in terms of there's so many different teams that, appeared on the national map that maybe a lot of us never thought would get there. And a lot of it is attributed to the transfer portal, to the extra COVID year. There's a lot, the NIL side of it now is changing the landscape. So I think this is kind of going to be the norm. Every year we could see different teams that maybe were put together, in that 1 year through transfers, et cetera, that just goes on this magical run.
It's kind of strange too. We were talking with Jim Larranaga. He obviously, took a great advantage of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness also factored in. Jimmy B, the one hair he has on his head was standing up like Don King when he was thinking about Pittsburgh and Miami and how they formed their team. Although certainly nothing that was outside the parameters of whatever guidelines college basketball and college sports are being conducted under. But the other interesting aspect that's arisen, we were asking him how he looked, with this core for the upcoming season. Now that he made it to the Final Four after an Elite Eight appearance, and these coaches don't know. It's almost wilder than having free agency in the NBA because a guy has no obligation to stay, or so it seems, and even some of your seasoned players that you developed have a good chance after promising and successful years of ending up somewhere else.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks every coach is going to have to kind of wait on in terms of their personnel. And so really what's going to happen is recruiting is going to go a lot longer. So, where we're used to the traditional college recruiting periods in terms of the signing dates, meaning one in the fall, one in the spring, you can really throw that out the window right now because most coaches and most universities are going to have to wait until their personnel, their players decide what they're doing and then address their recruiting needs. So recruiting is going to go a lot later, longer, year to year now. But, to answer the other, you made the point about the NIL stuff. Look,
yeah,
it's really kind of, I think Coach Larranaga said this best. It's kind of unfair for the University of Miami to only be one of the only universities that puts it out there in terms of what their NIL packages may be. We don't know. And I guarantee you, there's a lot of schools and colleges that are, way up there in terms of the NIL side of it, in terms of the packages that they're putting together that we don't even know about. So I agree with Coach Larranaga. I think another side of what he said in his press conference too is, look, these players have to start understanding and learning business. That's what college is about. So for them to be able to, receive some NIL benefits, I think it starts the process of maturity and handling their own finances.
Oh yeah. So on that vein, to me, and it's interesting, and Defo brought up that Jim Boeheim had interesting things to say. I find it strange, this idea of, well, they bought a title. We just had Coach Larranaga on. Every team literally had transfers. Every team in the Final Four had transfers. Not one of the Final Four teams had a McDonald's All-American. So I understand the bitterness that sets in and frustration. And we see it in college football. Nick Saban literally bends every rule, and then he's the first one to bitch about NIL. I just think it's weird for these coaches. Look, I appreciate coaches like Jim Larranaga, who early on told us the transfer portal is going to change the game, but you have to embrace it, right? Like, things are fluid, things change. And I find it weird to have coaches come out and slam something that it's here to stay and it's not going anywhere.
And a lot of that, as you said, it's bitterness, right? There's a lot of, other coaches that instead of pointing the finger, hey, listen, I've got to do better. We've got to do better. They want to point it at somebody else. But to your point, I think Coach Larranaga is a stand-up coach. He's an excellent coach, stand-up guy. He's done an unbelievable job at the University of Miami. We've competed against him for years as an assistant, even as a head coach. And, I've got big respect for him and, deservingly so of what he's been able to accomplish. And I think, again, he's the type of coach that no matter what happens here in terms of his personnel year to year, as you just said, he'll find a way and he'll adjust to it and get the best out of his players.
I think that big Russian kid from FAU, might be being recruited by Kentucky. I understand that they dug up the body of Colonel Sanders, and actually, it looks like he's going to own 2 franchises outside of Lexington if he transfers. But that's the kind of stuff I guess that's going on. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but it is interesting that you no longer necessarily look to freshmen coming in, although that's part of it. But you might be better off and benefit more from having some guy that was playing, at a major school, and your name, image, and likeness situation puts you in a position where you can, in this case, you just offer the guy more money, which I don't think the NCAA ever envisioned anything quite like this when they were telling people they couldn't have $15 a month in laundry money because it would ruin the game and the status of the a cloak of amateurism that they were trying to operate under. All right, in terms of the tournament itself, Scott, the Fairleigh Dickinson thing had to be the strangest. We were saying that Gene Katie, probably took out a can of Krylon to color his hair and just decided to gargle with it instead. Because, how could they not throw the ball in it as Zach Edey, the player of the year, for 10 minutes? What on earth was his coach thinking? At some point, don't you have to just grab a kid like you're a Bobby Knight, bind a collar, and, say, hey, throw it to the big man. Let's at least try to get a shot off inside. And it appeared like he had good position the entire time against a Fairleigh Dickinson team. There were a bunch of Lilliputians.
Well, look, as we've talked about, what makes the NCAA tournament so special in regards to these, smaller universities or undermanned teams beating a talented, high-level, high major program is the game plan, and it's a 1-game series. So, look, if it was a 7-game series, most of the time the most talented team is going to win out, at least win 4 games in that 7 series. But on a 1-game show, what Fairleigh Dickinson did that game is they basically said, look, we're going to take one of our players defensively, and we're going to basically put him in the paint when he doesn't have the ball, and he's basically going to what you call spy, the big guy Edey, meaning, he's there deterring that pass from coming in over the top. They were trying to front him, and he was there giving constant help. And what they gave up was his man would get the ball wide open and then be able to shoot a 3. Well, he wasn't making them. And so then what happens is now the identity of the best team, arguably in the Big Ten and one of the best teams in the country, a number 1 seed, are they going to adjust and adapt to the game plan because the game plan that was against them, was working. So what are they going to do? And so what happens oftentimes is, look, those bigger high-level programs, they're not going to change their identity try to win 1 game. They're going to stick to what got them there and what they do. And so that's the reason why that you can beat some of these high-level teams in a 1-game series is when you try to take them away from what they do in that game where they don't really have an adjustment or they're not going to change because that's what they do. And that's how these upsets happen.
It seemed like they had a great bunch. We're big fans of college basketball coaches, as we are of you, Scott, because always very articulate. Not afraid to say things and deal more in truth than just cliche. But we had a chance to cover a Final Four, and we interviewed probably a dozen college coaches, and we were impressed by virtually all of them in the way they presented themselves and a passion for the game. That was in Houston in 2016, I guess, when you had the North Carolina-Villanova game as a championship game, which was tremendous. This tournament was great, and in Final Four, it was really well represented. Did anybody, stamp themselves as somebody? I'm surprised that the Dallas Mavericks, don't make an offer, after they fire Jason Kidd at the end of this year to Dusty May. Did anybody make a bigger impression in terms of a breakthrough type of situation as a head coach than Dusty May of FAU?
I will say this to you. I don't think a lot of people saw Florida Atlantic. Again, they're not on national television every night. And so for what it's worth, when you watched FAU, and if you really truly look at what they're doing as a team and how well coached they are, I mean, it was a real fun team to watch. First and foremost, look, defensively, you want to talk about, well-drilled defenders, and how they actually pressure. Any great defense in man-to-man starts with pressure on the ball. They apply tremendous pressure on the ball. Their one pass away positioning is fundamentally as technique. I mean, as fundamental as you can get. And then they went in and get into these closeout situations, because that's really what the objective is in basketball, is to put teams, the opposition, in long closeout situations, because that's usually the hardest thing to guard, are those long closeouts. In Florida Atlantic, and how well drilled they were, there's a technique there. You chop your steps, you tuck your butt, your hands are high, and you close out what you say low and short. And so their technique was, just so fundamentally sound, so well drilled. And then their rotations and how they rotated and stayed connected and helped one another. And then they finished possessions with rebounds. Look, I mean, from a coaching standpoint, you really can't help but watch Florida Atlantic and just say, hey, man, these guys really drill these kids. They're well coached. I thought Coach May and his staff obviously did an unbelievable job. And the last thing I'll say about FAU, they were the most determined team. They were that team that just, whether they were outmanned in terms of their size and physicality at almost every position except maybe for Golan, they just found ways to out-rebound people, chase those loose ball rebounds. They out-rebounded K-State by 20. Those are effort plays. And they also out-rebounded a bigger Tennessee team. So, again, that was just effort and determination. But, yes, hats off to Coach May and his staff and the Florida Atlantic players.
Yeah, you would think he could write his own ticket. Apparently, he's going to come back at least for next year on a 5-year extension that he signed with FAU right after the tournament. I think Brian White had the contract, right there on the press table when he was holding a post-game press conference. It said, "Sign this now, kid, because we want to keep you around." Which I don't know that he goes the whole distance there, but certainly established himself. And yet, all that being said, at the end of the ball game, I mean, just an horrendous beat. I mean, that was about as brutal a beat as we've seen in any game. Where, I mean, you're up 14. I'm watching a game at this Jewish deli at a casino that's here in South Florida, Scott, and all of these out the cockers that are eating the free food after they got wiped out by the slot machines are yelling and screaming with every basket, and it looks like they have this thing in a bag. And sure enough, the lead started to dissipate, and to be beaten on that final shot. I mean, I felt the same pain almost because I'm a Syracuse guy, but it was 1987 and Keith Smart all over again. I mean, that was brutal. If you happen to be on the side of FAU,
it was. I mean, and really, you feel first of all for the kids, because to have, first of all, you're losing, a game like that where you're going to replay that game so many times, especially that last possession, probably, for the rest of your life, guys. I mean, not just the players, but obviously the coaches. And then you start thinking about, the alumni, the student body. And to your point, a lot of the Floridians down there, that were rooting them on. So it really has an impact on everybody that, you want to try to change, what would have happened during that play. But look, this is part of the game. And, one of the things as a coach you're telling your players is to try not to get too high or low, much like life, right? You're going to have things happen to you that are going to be, so exciting that you just can't let your emotions hijack you during that time. And at the same time, when you get really low, you can't, give up and curl up in fetal position and say, hey, I'm feeling sorry for yourself. Hey, maybe take one day and feel bad, but you've got to use this now as motivation. I'm sure Coach May and his staff now are going to use that, as motivation. They've got a tremendous group coming back. It will motivate those kids, I'm sure, even that much more to get in the weight room, to practice even, that much harder, just to do a little bit more. But they're a team, if they stay together next year, look, they're positioned to do even, get to where they were. Yes, some luck, and obviously injuries have a lot to do with it, but they've got the personnel and the coaching staff to get back there.
Yeah, I just want to touch real quick, Scott, on the other two guys, because I was impressed with Brian Dutcher. Seemed like a real gentleman. We have a friend that despises the Hurley family because, the father was sending all of those guys to Duke, and he was not a big Coach K fan. And of course, Bobby Hurley is coaching at Arizona State, had a good season there. But Danny Hurley, I mean, it seemed like a hard guy not to like. I mean, and a guy that did come up, you would have to say the hard way as a prominent high school coach, and then ends up at Connecticut. And while the program has kind of been, stagnant there for a while, finds his way to the national championship, number 5.
I'll give you a little side story there. So I was a longtime assistant in college, as you guys know. I was at Texas A&M, and we had the best 4-year win total in A&M history. We were crushing it, and so I interviewed for the Wagner job back then.
Oh yeah,
it came down to Danny Hurley and Scott Spinnelli, and he was a high school coach at the time, and so he ended up getting the job over me. That was back at A&M, and then at Maryland when I was there, I interviewed for the Buffalo job. And it came down to Bobby Hurley and me, and I lost that job. So,
so you might have an in for the Hurley family, just like our friend the professor does.
Yeah, but you know what? You respect those, Coach Hurley. Obviously the entire family. That to have to, again, their dad was legendary Hall of Famer, and to see what they've been able to accomplish as children, I'm sure there's expectations growing up in a family like that. And you got to, applaud those 2 young men in terms of what they've done as basketball players and what they've done as coaches. Because it's not, easy to come up in that shadow. So I give them a lot of respect. And in terms of Coach Dutcher, look, I think it was tremendous for all sports, all athletes. Attention, parents, coaches, watch how San Diego State played the game. They were selfless in terms of the players. They were out there, doing everything that they could do to help the team win. Nobody was concerned about how many points they were getting, how many minutes they were getting. It was all about the common goal of winning. And I don't think we see enough of that in sports at any level in this day and age. It's always about, I've got to play more minutes. I've got to score more points. My child should be getting more shots. And I think it was something that if you really watch San Diego State and how they played, I think it's a great lesson that for all student athletes out there, is just be about winning. The rest of it will take care of itself.
Excellent stuff. Hey, it's always great having you on the program, Scott. You're doing your Believe podcast year round, are you not?
No, we do it more seasonally, but we do it both in obviously the college NCAA season and then into the NBA. So we're getting ready to kick into the NBA now with the playoffs. And but yeah, no, we do it year round, and it's a lot of fun and something that, again, we talk a lot about some of the stuff that we're speaking about today. But again, I love being on your show anytime, guys.
Yeah, if you're an NBA guy, Lubie is obsessed. I mean, just a psychotic Miami Heat fan. So maybe you can provide him with some verbal therapy during the course of, what we think will be a very early knockout in the playoffs for the Miami Heat. But yeah, we'd love to have you on again during the NBA playoffs. That'd be awesome if you're open to it. That'd be fantastic because you're great on the show. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
All right, thanks a lot, Scott Spinnelli, ladies and gentlemen. I like that guy, Louie. You?
I think he's great. He knows his stuff and he's honest. And I appreciate when he joins us and schools us and gives us, sort of.
I was thinking it was sayonara though, because the college basketball season's over, but he does the NBA. All right. So very good, Louie. No having to chop off into like some .com schmank to help us analyze NBA games.
Basketball.
Well, what the hell is going on? Everybody's still in it. That's the beauty, man. I mean, as a guy that was adamantly opposed to the watering down, the diluting of playoff teams by having everybody in the postseason, I have to admit, it's made it a lot more interesting during the regular season, has it not? Mike Lubitz, both in baseball and basketball, with expanded playoffs, and in football too.
It's cut down on the tanking. Like even with a guy like Wemby, who feels like a surefire, the next surefire dude. Outside of the Rockets, maybe. I mean, like, look, the Blazers aren't tanking. The Blazers, believe me, the Blazers are not happy that they're not good. Like they want to be good. Lillard it feels like eventually Lillard's going to wake up and go, "What the fuck am I doing here?"
Yeah.
The tanking, you were the king guy to talk about how tanking sucks and I hate tanking.
It's horrendous.
You haven't brought it up, even you personally. I haven't heard you bitch about tanking in a long time.
Well, because you know my feeling on it. The whole and this was a theory borrowed from the great Eddie Kaplan, but I think he was right, and I was appalled by the whole notion. What are you talking about? You're out of your mind. You're a madman. You know, I mean, but that's what's usually true of visionaries. People think they're crazy at some point. Anyway, and his theory was quit rewarding futility. Why make it a distinction to be the last place team? And the distinction is you have a chance to grab the guy that might be that generational talent that can turn your franchise around. And how many times have we seen those teams, those inept franchises that are lousy to begin with, bungle away the opportunity to get good by taking the wrong guy in those spots, or panicking when they're very close to the top, even though they didn't necessarily finish last, but they have the third or fourth pick, so they trade up to get Zach Hack Wilson or Ryan Leaf, or any of this stuff. I mean, they just make like blatant blunders. I mean, we've seen it in all sports that really are contingent on the draft, like the NBA and the NFL, much more so. I think, I guess in some cases, hockey it could apply when you get certain players available and they're coming out of the amateurs, and to a lesser extent baseball, right? Because that's even more unprecise than the NFL draft, especially if you're a Marlin fan. But I think that the best team should be in a lottery, maybe in reverse order. You finish first, you get the least amount of lottery balls, but you're in the lottery. You're in the mix for the Wemby guy, and force the other franchises to make themselves better, to figure out a way to do it. Otherwise, just get rid of them. That would be fine with me.
I think this having more teams in the playoffs, which does water down the playoffs, has sort of, I don't know if it's eliminated. I feel like it stemmed the tide a lot when it comes to the tanking.
Yeah.
Like, I hear a lot of people like talking about tanking, and there's a lot of teams in the mix, and you're seeing like a Raptors who are hovering around, be excited to get back to 500. You're seeing a Bulls who have been hit by disaster try to get themselves into the playoffs. Like you're seeing even the Rockets who are doing whatever they can to tank, are winning. Yeah. The young kids are playing better, and they don't seem to be bitching about it. Like it seems to be a little bit different.
The epitome of a tank job, though, comes into town tonight, and just to go and further the point that having the number one or top picks every year doesn't necessarily lead itself to a golden path to success. But the Detroit Pistons in town tonight, losers of 21 of their last 22 games, Lubie, losers. Is Grant Long going to be in town for the broadcast, or do they do that from a studio in Detroit when he does the pre-post game shows for the television network?
I have no idea. I can reach out to him.
Yeah, see what's going on. All right, a lot of fun being with you. We went a little over the time here. You're going to catch Mike Mayo on the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show, and Lubie's going to be there, and maybe brings on Dave Hyde for his trip to Houston. That would be great. But and I'm going to be back with you guys on the Mike Mayo Show on Wednesday, and we're going to be at Wicked Cheesesteaks, where apparently the Defo sandwich is a hot seller, which surprises me a great deal. What do you think, Lubie? Not that every sandwich isn't great there at Wicked Cheesesteaks, but that the Defo all of a sudden has caught on and is right up there with the chicken parm sub. I mean, in terms of being a bestseller there.
I don't remember you ever mentioning that exact sandwich, but I'm glad Brian found his way there, and
yeah,
you're getting credit for a sandwich that's helping him out a great deal. And I think Mayo's sandwich is solid too.
It's kind of like thinking of Cindy Crawford shopping at Rooms to Go for her furniture when her husband, obviously is a billionaire. The guy Gerber that's hooked up there with those, what is that? Casamigos or whatever. Casamigos, the tequila that they sold with Clooney. Yes. And she didn't do bad for herself either, right? Even the daughter's like, a high-priced fashion model. So, I mean, do you really think that she's buying her furniture at Rooms to Go?
I would say no.
Do you have a credit card with us? The salespeople there are a bit weird, are they not? Are they just making low commissions? Is that the thing? It's always somebody that seems disinterested in actually getting you that furniture, no?
Oh, like, yeah.
Okay, you want the couch or not? Okay. It's cheap enough, isn't it? You a loser? No, I don't know. I don't want to know. Some case, someday they call and just say, hey, We see that you guys are killing it, so we want to be a part of the show. All right, we'll see you next time. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today. And we'll be at Wicked Cheesesteaks Wednesday. Aruba on the Lauderdale by the Sea, right there by the commercial pier. And that'll be, don't walk out on the pier, though, because I think that section is still missing.
I don't think that, yeah, we were there not that long ago because we went to Aruba, and they still have not fixed it, which I don't know what they're doing with it.
That's not happening anytime soon, my friend. And don't think that might not be somewhat suspicious, those circumstances. Oh, and it's arraignment day in New York, so we'll see. We'll get a lot of coverage on that. They're celebrating that like some international dignitary was coming to town.
My favorite
following the motorcade and all this. The guy's getting arrested, for God's sake.
My favorite was the Bobert line. If you commit crimes, they're going to come after you too. It's like,
there you go.
Yes, yes, they are.
You go, yeah.
Thank you for stating.
Even I have never had the opportunity to pay off a porn star to keep my name out of the Inquirer. And I've done some things that I'm not particularly proud of, some unscrupulous things in affairs of the heart. All right, so see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
Thank you, Mike Lubie Lewis. As always, great job. Jim Larranaga, always tremendous. It's 9:16.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.